Chapter 408. If they hadn't displayed their true strength, would you have used my hands to kill them? Yifei asked coldly. Of course not. If you'd killed any one of those warriors, you'd be in big trouble. If you're in trouble, I won't be in trouble either. I won't make things difficult for myself. It's good that you know, Zhou Xian said. Don't force me to kill myself. I know I'm not stupid. The sinister voice laughed. Don't threaten me with killing yourself. You're just too tired of living. You don't dare to do the things you want to do, the people you want to kill, and you don't even dare to confess to the woman you like. If you're so tired of living, why don't you let me live for you? I dare you to say that again. Zhou Xian lowered his voice, his tone full of anger. I won't say it, I won't say it, the demon repeated. Although Zhou Xian had almost injured someone, the consequences weren't too severe. Fortunately, the warriors weren't petty people and Zhou Xian was quickly forgiven. As for the sudden burst of power that was close to the Sword Saint realm, although the crowd was a little surprised, they didn't suspect anything. Because Zhou Yifan's current cultivation was at the peak of 9th rank, the other warriors could tell from his outburst of power that he was about to break through, and they all came forward to congratulate him. The captain of the warriors, Old Lin, especially sought out Zhou Yifang for a chat and imparted him with a few things to take note of before breaking through to the Sword Saint realm. This made Zhou Yifang very grateful. When he'd first joined the city guards, he'd only wanted to find a place where he could cultivate, but after a year of interaction with them, he'd unknowingly developed feelings for them. At some point, Zhou Yifang even had a desire to bring Zhou Lin here 3 years later. He truly felt the kind of stable life he'd longed for. The peaceful days didn't last long before the Thunderbolt family began to act up again. The Thunderbolt, Wu and Qin families formed a team of warriors that constantly harassed the Feng and Hua families in the surrounding counties. This time the Feng clan and the Hua clan were prepared. The Thunderbolt clan didn't succeed in their sneak attack. Within a month, the two clans had engaged in more than 10 battles. In the battle, both sides had sent out secret warrior groups, so there would be great perfection-level warriors fighting each other in almost every battle. The battle situation was unprecedentedly intense. This situation persisted for more than a month. Both sides suffered heavy casualties, but the Feng family was still a little weaker. Even with experts like Li Mo and Count of the Feng, the Thunderclap still managed to take over 5 small cities. As the Spring Festival approached, both sides declared a temporary truce. The truce lasted for half a month, which meant that after the Spring Festival, both sides would resume fighting. Despite Wind City's defeat in the war, the people of Wind City still decorated their homes with lanterns and streamers as the Spring Festival approached. One day, Li Mo brought Yun Ruian out to buy some Spring Festival couplets and lanterns. Yun Ruian held a large red lantern in each hand, and her steps were light and cheerful, sweeping away the gloom of the war. Just by looking at Yun Ruian's happy expression, Li Mo was delighted as well. The two of them arrived at the gates of the Hua clan's residence. Just as they were about to enter the residence, a ragged beggar suddenly walked out from the side of the gate and quickly walked toward Yun Ruian. Normally, if someone were to suddenly approach Yun Ruian in such a manner, they wouldn't even be able to touch her. However, this beggar didn't have the slightest cultivation, and he immediately knelt in front of Yun Ruian. Yun Ruian was taken aback. Li Mo had already prepared to attack, but when he saw the beggar's actions he stopped. This was a rather special period. Both sides had spies in the other cities, and the Thunderbolt clan had a long history with Yun Ruian. It wasn't impossible for them to send someone to assassinate her. As a result, although Li Mo stopped attacking, he still stood in front of Yun Ruian. He took out a few spirit crystals and handed them to the beggar. However, the beggar didn't reach out to take them. Instead, he raised his head excitedly and wiped the dust off his face. Miss Yun, Master Li, don't you recognize me? The beggar asked excitedly. Yun Ruian turned to look at the beggar. He had a mustache and he looked rather familiar. Yun Ruian's eyes lit up as she pointed at the beggar. Are you Steward Hu? Li Mo frowned. Although the beggar was a little tanned and skinnier, he was clearly the same arrogant mustached steward from years ago. Oh, Miss Yun, you've finally remembered me. The mustached man stood up from the ground in excitement. Kneel. Li Mo barked, scaring the mustached man into kneeling once more. You're the steward of the Thunderbolt clan. What are you doing here? The bearded manager sighed and said, It's a long story. Miss Yun, Master Li, I had eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. That was my mistake. But I ask the two of you to save my family's second young master. He's about to die. The bearded manager said as tears flowed down his face. What's wrong with the Thunderbolt clan? Yun Ruian walked up to the man from behind Li Mo. Why don't you stand up first? The man with a small mustache stood up and wiped his tears and snot with his dirty sleeves as he said, the two of you quickly come with me. I'm afraid that I won't be able to see my second young master if I'm a little late. The mustached man led Yun Ruian and Li Mo through 2 streets until they arrived at a relatively remote area where a rundown temple stood. As soon as Yun Ruian entered the temple, she saw a similarly disheveled man curled up in a pile of rags in the corner of the temple. Yun Ruian hadn't even seen the man's face, but when she saw his head of fiery red hair, she couldn't help but feel her heart clench. She quickly walked toward him. Thunderson. Yun Ruian walked up to the man and called out to him in a small voice. The man lying in the pile of rags was indeed Thunderbolt, but the Thunderbolt in front of her now looked like a completely different person from the arrogant Thunderbolt of the past. Not only was his face haggard and lifeless, but both of his arms had been chopped off, and he looked as if he would pass away at any moment. When Thunderclap heard Yun Ruian's voice, he turned to look at her, his lifeless eyes finally regaining a trace of life. Yun Ruian. Thunderclap's breathing became ragged as he called out Yun Ruian's name, as if he would die at any moment. How did you end up like this? Yun Ruian's voice was filled with both disbelief and pain. Although Thunderbolt was a member of the Thunderbolt family and had tried to harm her and Li Mo in the past, he had never intended to harm Yun Ruian. In fact, he had even helped her more than once. As a result, even if Yun Ruian didn't like him, she was still grateful to him. It's so good to see you again. I thought I'd never see you again. After panting for a long while, he slowly closed his eyes, but there was a faint smile on his lips. Second young master. The mustached man pounced on Thunderbolt's body and began sobbing. Thunderbolt. Yun Ruian called out. Li Mo knelt down by Yun Ruian's side and checked Thunderbolt's pulse. He's not dead yet. There's still time to save him. The mustached man immediately crawled up from Thunderbolt's body and knelt in front of Li Mo and Yun Ruian, kowtowing profusely. Please save the second young master of the city. If not for the fact that the city lord discovered that he had helped Miss Yun, he wouldn't have injured him so severely after chopping off both of his arms. I've offended the two of you in the past, but the second young master of the city has indeed helped the two of you in the past. Please save him. The mustached man buried his head in his hands and continued to cry, but Yun Ruian stopped him. Alright, hurry up and catch up. The mustached man raised his head to find that there was no one in front of him, and Thunderbolt was nowhere to be seen. He hurriedly looked outside and saw that Yun Ruian and Li Mo had already walked far away. Thunderbolt was being carried on Li Mo's shoulder, and the mustached man hurriedly got up and chased after the two of them. Yun Ruian and Li Mo brought Thunderclap back to the Yun residence. Li Mo first infused him with some spiritual energy to prolong his life, then fed him a high-grade spiritual pill. Only then did Thunderclap's life finally come back from the brink of death. However, his injuries were so severe that he would need the help of the Count of the Wind to fully recover. Coincidentally, the Count of the Wind hadn't been in Thunderbolt City for the past few days, so Yun Ruian had no choice but to feed him a spiritual pill to keep him alive until the Count of the Wind returned to Thunderbolt City. Thunderbolt only woke up for a limited period of time each day, and it took a lot of effort for him to speak. Yun Ruian's questions were all answered by the mustached man. How did your second young master lose his arms? Yun Ruian asked. My lord did it, the mustached man replied honestly. The mustache man had told Yun Ruian about this incident in the ruined temple, but she still found it hard to believe. She remembered that Thunderclap had been doted on by the Thunderclap family, so could it be that he had been crippled by Thunderclap just because he had helped Li Mo save her? As the saying goes, even a vicious tiger won't eat its cubs. Why would your lord amputate his own son's arms and two at once? Yun Ruian asked. It was possible that Thunderbolt had amputated one of his arms in a fit of rage, but to amputate two meant that he had intended to cripple him. Yun Ruian didn't think that such a thing would happen. It's all your fault, the mustached man sighed. You crippled the young lord's arms, so the lord dismembered the second lord's arms and replaced them with the young lord's. What did you say? Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. Thunderbolt isn't dead. Chapter 409. The bearded man told Yun Ruoyan that not only was Thunderous Badian not dead, but even his severed arms had been reattached by Thunderous Yangs. How is that possible? Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo couldn't believe their eyes. After all, they had personally witnessed Thunderous Flame's lightning-drawing saber pierce through Thunderous Batian's chest. That day I was ordered by the second young master to come to your aid, and I saw the scene of the young city lord being assassinated. At the time I too thought that the young city lord was dead for sure, and I even went back to report the situation to the second young master. Steward who said, a few days later the castellan suddenly came to our courtyard. Without saying anything, he dismembered the arms of the second young master. At the same time he questioned whether he had revealed Miss Yun's hiding place. The bearded man said that in a fit of rage, Thunderous Yang had revealed how he had helped Li Mo plot against Thunderous Badian. In a fit of rage, Thunderous Flame had severely injured Thunderous Yang and imprisoned him. He had even declared that if Thunderous Badian didn't survive, he would come for Thunderous Yang's life. After Thunderous Yang had been imprisoned for 3 days, Thunderous Flame had sent someone to release him. The person said that Thunderous Badian had come back to life, but that Thunderous Flame didn't want to see Thunderous Yang again. The bearded man had served Thunderous Yang since he was a child, and he couldn't bear to see Thunderous Yang fend for himself, so he left the city with him. Thunderous Yang and the bearded man were chased out of the city, and none of the Thunderous families dared to keep them. The small families that the bearded man had once been on good terms with were now like venomous snakes and scorpions, and the once glorious second young master of the Thunderous family had become a hated stray dog. We really had nowhere to go and the second young master was injured. The bearded man looked up at Yun Ruoyan. I've often heard him mention you and I thought that you and Master Li might still be on good terms, so I brought the second young master all the way here. I know that I've let down Miss Yun, Master Li and your friends in the past, but I'm willing to leave, but please take good care of the young master. Yun Ruoyan looked at the bearded man's pleading eyes. You're a loyal person, so let's not talk about what happened in the past. We'll do our best to save Thunderous Yang, so please take good care of him. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo left Thunderbolt's room, only to run into Lin Qingchen at the door. Qingchen, why did you come here? Yun Ruoyan asked Lin Qingchen. I'm here to ask Butler Hu for something, Lin Qingchen replied. What is it? Lin Qingchen raised her empty hand. This is the spatial ring my grandfather gave me. Miss Lin. The man with the mustache heard Lin Qingchen's voice and walked out of the house. He looked at Lin Qingchen in confusion. Steward Hu, you came out at the right time. Lin Qingchen said coldly, my spatial ring is in your hands. Can you return it to me now? Miss Lin, what space ring are you talking about? The man with the mustache had a dumbfounded expression. I don't understand. Lin Qingchen frowned and looked at the man's hands. Seeing that he wasn't wearing anything, she continued, since you don't understand, I'll explain it to you in detail. Lin Qingchen explained in detail how the spatial ring containing Whitey had been snatched away by the head servant of the Thunderclap family, as well as when she had seen the ring appear on the mustached manager's hand. The mustache man took a while to react before he finally remembered. He slapped his forehead and said, I remember now. The ring you mentioned was given to me by one of my subordinates when I was in the Lei family. So it actually belongs to Miss Lin. If that's the case, you can return it to me now. Lin Qingchen interrupted the mustache man's words and directly opened her palm to him. Ever since Lin Qingchen had lost the ring, she had been longing to get it back, but she hadn't had a chance to do so while she was with the Thunderbolt family. Later, when Zhou Yifeng had come to save them, Lin Qingchen hadn't had the time to retrieve the ring. After she returned, she hadn't brought up the matter to Yun Ruoyan, but when she heard that Steward Hu had entered the Lin residence, she couldn't wait any longer and rushed over. In Lin Qingchen's heart, the ring was a small matter, but Whitey, who was in it, was extremely precious to her. But in the face of Lin Qingchen's request, the man with the mustache revealed an awkward expression. That ring. The man with the mustache stammered, unable to complete his sentence. Yun Ruoyan knew how important Whitey was to Lin Qingchen. Steward Hu, what's wrong with that ring? Don't be so hesitant. With a thud, Steward Hu knelt down again and cried, I really didn't know that it belonged to you, Miss Lin. All I knew was that it was a spatial ring, but I couldn't open it. So I gave it to the second young master. Are you talking about Thunderbolt? You gave that ring to Thunderbolt? Yun Ruoyan pressed. Lin Qingchen began walking towards the inner room. Miss Lin, please wait. The ring isn't with the second young master right now, the mustache hurriedly said. The small mustache man quickly said, the second young master originally wore it on his hand, but both of his arms were chopped off by the city lord, so the ring is naturally not with the young master. Lin Qingchen stopped walking, her tone even colder. Then where is my ring now? This time, before the mustache could speak, Yun Ruoyan said, if I'm not mistaken, the ring should be with Thunderbolt right now. Thunderbolt's arms had been chopped off and attached to Thunderbolt's body, so the ring was naturally on Thunderbolt's body as well. Lin Qingchen was panicking, and Yun Ruoyan could only console her, promising that she'd find a way to retrieve the ring for her. In the manner of the Thunderbolt City Lord, Thunderbolt Batian was playing with a scarlet whip in the courtyard. Although his movements weren't large, they were rather smooth. Gradually, Thunderbolt Batian's movements became faster and faster, and the whip became a whirlwind in the air. Suddenly, an intense pain radiated from both his arms. Thunderbolt Batian groaned in pain and stopped what he was doing. A layer of sweat had formed on his forehead, either from the pain or from the intense exercise he'd just had. Damn it, there's still a rejection reaction. Thunderbolt Batian put away his whip and spread his hands out in front of him, staring at the pair of hands that seemed both familiar and strange. These hands had once belonged to his younger brother, but now they were on his body. Thunderbolt Batian didn't feel the slightest bit ashamed. Thunderbolt, you can't blame me. If you hadn't colluded with Li Mo to plot against me, I wouldn't have lost both my arms and almost lost my life. Thunderbolt Batian muttered to himself. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to an ancient-looking ring on his left hand. Thunderbolt Batian had long since discovered that this was a spatial ring. He tried many methods, but just like Thunderbolt and the Mustache Man, he was unable to open it. Most spatial rings didn't have any restrictions and anyone could easily open them. As a result, this spatial ring had successfully attracted Thunderbolt Batian's attention. Tianfa. Thunderbolt walked into the courtyard and called out when he saw Thunderbolt Batian standing there in a daze. Father. Thunderbolt Batian snapped out of his daze and turned to Thunderbolt Batian. Thunderbolt Batian could tell from his sweaty face that he'd been cultivating again. Tian, I know you're anxious, but your arms won't be healed in a short period of time. Even the Silver Dragon Elder said that you'll need at least half a year to fully use them. Father. Thunderbolt Batian looked at Thunderbolt Batian. Do you have any more of that holy water? As long as I have it, I'll be able to revive even if I die again. The Elder only gave me one bottle and I used it all to save you, Thunderbolt Batian replied. According to the Silver Dragon Elder, that holy water is extremely precious. Based on what we've done recently, the fact that the Elder gave you a bottle to save your life is already a great favor. Father, didn't the Elder say that if we could capture both Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, he'd fulfill one of your conditions? At that time, you can make a wish for a few more bottles of holy water, Thunderbolt Batian replied. Thunderbolt Batian nodded. Both Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo are currently under the Feng family's protection. If we want to capture them, we'll have to start with the Feng family. When the Feng family collapses, Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo will have nowhere to run. Father, Thunderbolt Batian replied. Thunderbolt Batian continued. Our family has always had the upper hand in recent battles. Why would you agree to a truce at a time like this? Wouldn't this be giving the Feng family a chance to catch their breath? In my opinion, we can simply ignore the truce and take down Thunderbolt City in one fell swoop, capturing both Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. Thunderbolt Batian's agitated tone turned even more helpless. Of course I want to do that, but it's not just the Feng family that needs to recuperate. Our Thunderbolt family, the Wu family, and the Qin family also need to rest and recuperate. Although we've dealt a heavy blow to the Feng family, we've also lost quite a number of elite warriors. Our secret warrior corps has been reduced by half, but fortunately, we have enough high-grade spirit stones to quickly raise a large number of elite warriors to replace them. Is the Lai family still unwilling to join us? Thunderbolt Batian asked. Father, why don't you increase the amount you promised them? Thunderbolt Batian replied. I've already increased the amount I promised them, and I've even written a letter to Lai Fenglan. His words were very sincere, but he kept using Lai Yun's illness as an excuse. Thunderbolt Batian paused for a moment before continuing. Perhaps he wasn't trying to avoid us on purpose, but that Lai Yun's illness really is getting worse. Why do you say that, father? In his most recent letter he requested for a grand wedding between Lai Yun and Thunderbolt. He even said that as long as they were married, the two families would become one family and he would naturally help them. It seems that Lai Yun doesn't have long to live and he wants to fulfill his final wish. Thunderbolt Batian continued. If this letter had come 2 months earlier, it wouldn't have been difficult for Thunderbolt and Lai Yun to get married. But now that Thunderbolt's whereabouts are unknown, how could they possibly get married? Moreover, he's already a cripple. Even if Lai Yun were to die, he probably wouldn't be willing to marry a cripple. Chapter 4:10. Father, do you have any news of my brother's whereabouts? Thunderflame asked. Thunderflame shook his head, his tone still angry. No, I've severely injured him and there's no place for him in Thunderbolt City. It's hard to say whether he's still alive or not. Why don't we find him? After all, he's your son and your blood flows through his veins, Thunderflame probed. I don't have a son like that, Thunderflame replied firmly. Thunderflame said resolutely, I originally thought that it would be fine to raise him properly. I didn't care about the small troubles he caused in the past, but I didn't expect that he would almost harm you this time. The Thunderflame family can't allow such a traitor to live. Pai Batian didn't say anything else, but the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Pai Yen and he were half-brothers of the same father but different mothers. Pai Batian was the son of Pai Yan's main wife, while Pai Yang was merely a child he had with a servant girl after drinking too much. Although Pai Yan's blood flowed through their veins in his heart, these two sons were as different as the clouds and the mud. One was his pride, while the other was his humiliation. He had always been strict with Thunderflame, his future successor, and had strict requirements for him. As for Thunderflame, he didn't care about him at all, but in the eyes of outsiders, it was a form of pampering. Even Thunderflame himself was more doted on than Thunderflame, but what he didn't know was that true love came with strict requirements. But in the past 2 years, Thunderflame had made some progress in his cultivation, and he had wanted to train him to be Thunderflame's right-hand man. But this incident had caused the hatred that Thunderflame had suppressed for many years to suddenly burst forth. At that time he had held the idea of killing Thunderflame, but he had not thought that Thunderflame would not only stubbornly survive, but also survive to Wind City and be rescued. Although the new year hadn't arrived yet, Count of the Wind was already making preparations for the upcoming war. He'd set up defenses in various small cities before returning to Wind City. As soon as Yun Ruoyan received news of Count of the Wind's return, she'd immediately gone to the city guards and invited him to treat Thunderflame's injuries. After Count of the Wind's treatment and recuperation, Thunderflame finally began to recover day by day. However, although his body had recovered a lot, his mood had always been very gloomy. The sunny and somewhat arrogant youth of the past had died forever. Yun Ruoyan sympathized with Thunderson's plight. He'd gone from being the young lord of a city to nothing, and he'd even been crippled by his own father. Yun Ruoyan could empathize with his pain. As a result, Yun Ruoyan would often come to Thunderclap's aid when she had nothing better to do. One day the Count of the Wind came to see Thunderclap again. Coincidentally, Yun Ruoyan was also present. You're recovering well, the Count of Wind said. From now on, this old man doesn't need to come and see you, second young master. Fengbo, you don't have to call me second young master from now on. Just call me Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt smiled bitterly. I have been chased out of the Thunderbolt clan forever. From now on, the Thunderbolt clan has nothing to do with me. The Count of Wind sighed, nodded, and was about to leave. Seeing that he seemed to have something on his mind, Yun Ruoyan asked, Fengbo, is something the matter? Is it regarding the Thunderbolt clan? Hearing Yun Ruoyan's question, Count Feng stopped in his tracks and walked back to the two of them. I've just received news that the Thunder family has proposed marriage to the Lai family. If the marriage is successful, I'm afraid that the two families will join forces once more, and it'll be even more difficult for the Feng family to win. The Thunderbolt clan has proposed marriage to the Lai clan. Thunderclap looked shocked. Yun Ruoyan remembered that Lai Fenglan had told her that Lai Yun and Thunderclap had been engaged to each other since they were young. With Thunderclap's current state, he couldn't possibly go to the Lai clan to propose marriage. What was the Thunderbolt clan up to this time? Could it be? Count of Wind, tell me in detail. Which member of the Thunderbolt clan proposed marriage to the Feng clan? Yun Ruoyan asked. Who else could it be? The Count of Wind replied impatiently. Of course it's that Thunderbolt Batian, the first miss of the Lai clan who came back from the dead. As expected. Yun Ruoyan's ominous premonition had turned into reality. The Thunderbolt clan has already announced that the second young master of the city, Thunderbolt Yang, has passed away due to a serious illness. However, in order to fulfill their engagement with the Lai clan, Thunderbolt Batian will take his brother's place and marry Lai Yun, the Count of Wind added. What did the Thunderbolt clan say? Yun Ruoyan asked. Not yet, the Count of Wind replied. Lai Yun probably won't agree, the Thunderbolt clan suddenly said. Lai Yun never liked my brother Thunderbolt Batian. She said that he was too smart and powerful and she was afraid of him. But the marriage between the two clans probably isn't up to her, is it? The Count of Wind was still worried. Everyone present knew what a marriage between the Thunderbolt clan and the Lai clan would mean. Although Lai Fenglan had promised not to help either side, once the Thunderbolt clan and the Thunderbolt clan became a family, and it was only natural for a family member to help a family member, this promise would become empty talk. No, Uncle Lai values Lai Yun very much and he's been grooming her as his successor, the Count of Wind confirmed. This has also nurtured Lai Yun's unyielding personality, so if she doesn't wish to marry, no one can force her. Yun Ruoyan had some experience with this. Back at the banquet the Lai clan had hosted for her and Liemo, she could tell that Lai Yun's words carried a lot of weight. When Lai Yun had proposed not to help either side, Lai Fenglan had clearly been stunned for a moment, which meant that this decision had been made by Lai Yun, not him. If Lai Fenglan could allow Lai Yun to make such an important decision, then surely he would respect Lai Yun's own opinion on the matter of marriage as well. I've actually heard a little about Lai Yun's personality. The Count of Wind sat down on a nearby chair and looked at the Count of Wind. At the same time, I've also heard that Miss Lai's heart belongs to you. If you were to personally meet her, young Master Li, perhaps you'd be able to completely dissuade her from marrying you. Count of Wind, are you intending to have Thunderbolt convince Lai Yun? Yun Ruoyan asked. That's exactly what I'm thinking, the Count of Wind replied. But Thunderbolt. Yun Ruoyan glanced at the bedridden Thunderbolt. Although his body had mostly recovered, the damage to his vitality wasn't something that could be healed in a short period of time. More importantly, he was now a cripple. I have a soul-gathering pill here that can quickly replenish your energy. Count Feng took out a dark green bottle from his chest pocket and said, if the Pai and Lai clans really marry each other, then the Feng clan will have no chance of winning this battle. When the day comes that the Feng clan is destroyed, I'm afraid all of us here won't be able to have a good life. Yun Ruoyan and Count of Feng's both turned to look at Thunderclap. All right, I'll go, Thunderbolt finally said. You've saved my life, so no matter what, I should do what I can for the Feng family. However, I'm afraid that Lai Yun will only detest me in my current state. That's not necessarily the case. Yun Ruoyan could tell that Miss Pai didn't seem like the kind of person who would despise others for no reason. It's fine even if we don't get anything out of this trip. Let's just treat it as if we're meeting up with a friend. All right. Thunderbolt glanced at Yun Ruoyan gratefully. Within the city lord's manor, Lai Fenglan and Lai Xin were both trying their best to persuade Lai Yun to agree to the marriage with Thunderbolt. Yun save me just this once, Lai Fenglan urged. Lai Fenglan said, putting aside the fact that Pai Batian and Pai Yang are worlds apart, now that Pai Yang is no longer in this world, his engagement with you should be replaced by his older brother. What are you still hesitating about? Lai Yun slumped on the soft mattress, her face a little pale. Thunderbolt's death had dealt quite a blow to her. Thunderbolt is Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt is Thunderbolt. They're two different people, so how can they be compared? Lai Yun said angrily, I was still blaming Thunderbolt in my heart for not coming to see me, but it turns out that he's seriously ill just like me and he even lost his life. Why would the Thunderbolt family hide such an important matter from me? Why wouldn't they let me see Thunderbolt one last time? You can't blame the Thunderbolt family for this. Lai Fenglan sighed and sat down by Lai Yun's side. I've kept your recovery a secret from the outside world, and the Thunderbolt family must have kept Thunderbolt's death a secret because you were ill as well. But it seems that the Thunderbolt family still has some humanity in them. Even after Thunderbolt's death, they're still willing to accept this marriage. That's right, sister. Thunderbolt wouldn't want you to be a widow for the rest of your life, would he? Lai Xin, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. Lai Fenglan's sharp gaze swept over Lai Sr. No one's going to think you're mute if you don't speak. Lai Xin was so embarrassed that he didn't dare to speak anymore. Father, Lai Yun continued, both you and I are well aware of the purpose of the Thunderbolt clan's marriage proposal. I won't say it out loud. I know the severity of this matter. Let me think about it carefully. Ai. Lai Fenglan sighed and stood up. Looking at his precious daughter, he couldn't bring himself to say a single word of blame or reluctance. Then you should think about it again. You should know that father always respects your choices. Thank you, father. Lai Yun finally squeezed out a smile. Lai Fenglan nodded, gratified, and then turned to look at Lai Senator. Lai Xin shivered and hurriedly said, Sister, rest well. I'm leaving too. The father and son left Lai Yun's room together, leaving Lai Yun alone to lean against the soft mattress and stare at the plum blossoms outside the back window. Lai Yun remembered that this plum blossom tree was planted with Thunderbolt on her birthday when she was 10. Every year after that, Thunderbolt would come to the Lai family and pester her to brew a jar of plum blossom wine for him. Last year's wine was still buried under the plum blossom tree, and the tree was still blooming as vigorously as before. However, Thunderbolt was no longer here. Chapter 4:12. Lai Yun. Thunderbolt looked at Lai Yun with gratitude in his heart. At the same time he felt a little guilty. He had more or less lied to Lai Yun. Miss Lai, Yun Ruian began. Thunderclap had originally planned on hiding for the rest of his life, but after learning that Pai Batian had proposed to you, he was afraid that you'd been deceived by the Pai father and son, so he came to see you. Thunderclap, don't worry. Lai Yun looked at Thunderclap resolutely. Not only will I not marry Pai Batian, I'll even seek justice for you. Lai Yun, you'd better think this over, Lai Fenglan added. Father, this concerns my marriage. You have to listen to me, Lai Yun replied resolutely. I've already made up my mind to reject the Pai family's proposal. Seeing Lai Fenglan's awkward expression as well as his father's strange gaze, Thunderclap understood. Uncle Lai, I know that I'm a cripple now and I'm not a good match for Lai Yun at all. I'm here to remind Lai Yun that I'll be leaving soon and roaming the world. Thunderclap, I won't allow you to leave, Lai Yun protested. We're already engaged, and if I were to break it just because you don't have 2 arms, what kind of person would I be? But without arms you'd be a cripple. I wouldn't be able to protect you, nor would I be able to give you happiness. I'm marrying you, not your arms, Lai Yun insisted. Besides, it's not certain that you'll always be without arms. If Pai Batian was able to steal your arms, why can't we take them back? Thunderclap, don't worry. As long as I'm here, no one will be able to bully you. Lai Yun's words caused Thunderclap's eyes to brim with tears, but he forced himself not to shed them. In the end, under Lai Yun's insistence, Lai Fenglan had no choice but to keep Thunderclap and have him personally write a letter to reject Pai Batian's proposal. Miss Lai, could you reconsider the alliance I've proposed? Yun Ruian asked again. She could tell that Lai Fenglan doted on Lai Yun to the point that he would do anything for him. As long as she could convince Lai Yun to agree to the alliance, Lai Fenglan would have no problems. What Yun Ruian didn't know was that Lai Fenglan's obedience to Lai Yun wasn't just because he spoiled her, but also because Lai Yun had displayed astonishing talent from a young age. As long as she made a decision, she would never make a mistake. I agree to form an alliance with you, Lai Yun said. But I have a condition. What conditions? Yun Ruian was overjoyed. When we break through Thunderbolt City, leave Thunderbolt Heaven to me. I want to personally take back Thunderbolt's arm, Lai Yun said word by word. Finally, with Lai Yun's approval, Yun Ruian and Li Emo rushed back to the Wind City to report the news to Feng Yenyang. Thunderclap sent Yun Ruian and Li Emo off. Lian's a good girl. She's loyal and devoted to you, Yun Ruian commented. Yeah. Thunderclap sighed. I only knew that she liked to play with me and hunt with me, but I didn't expect her to love me so deeply. As a result, I feel very guilty for lying to her. Sometimes lies are kinder than reality, Yun Ruoyan replied. In that case, do you like lies? Thunderclap turned to Yun Ruoyan. Of course not. Yun Ruoyan shook her head. No one likes lies, but it's good to never know that they're lies. Yun Ruoyan also turned to Thunderclap. Lie Yun's worth protecting for the rest of your life. Thunderclap pursed his lips, and his gaze toward Yun Ruoyan suddenly burned with passion. However, that passion quickly cooled down. You're right. I'm a cripple now, but there's still a girl who's willing to stay with me. If I don't cherish her, I'd be letting down the heavens. I'll protect Lai Yun for the rest of my life. Good. Yun Ruoyan turned her gaze away. We're leaving now. You should head back as well. Li Mo, who hadn't been far behind, walked up to stand by Yun Ruoyan's side. His tall stature made Yun Ruoyan's not-so-short figure seem even more petite. He always wore a calm expression, as if he wouldn't even bat an eyelid if the sky were to collapse. Yun Ruoyan, on the other hand, always had a faint smile on her face, and the two of them were always so serene and peaceful together. Perhaps only a man like this is worthy of Yun Ruoyan, Thunderclap thought. Thunderclap, take care. I'll have someone escort Steward Hu here soon, Yun Ruoyan said, and the two of them took to the skies. As Thunderclap watched the two of them disappear into the distance, he finally relaxed his clenched fists. Some parts of his heart felt empty, but others were full. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo returned to Wind City and immediately reported the news of the Lai family's alliance to Feng Yanxin. Everyone was elated by this news. After months of decline, the Lai family's alliance was about to reverse the situation. How could they not be excited? It was in this atmosphere that the new year began. On New Year's Eve, Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo, the Lin sisters, and even Zhu Yifeng and Qin Feng accompanied Lin Tianming. None of them had expected that on this day a year later, they would be able to celebrate the arrival of the new year in a manner in another world. Lin Tianming looked at the group of youths surrounding him, and his eyes couldn't help but tear up. He no longer needed to return to that cold dungeon, and he no longer needed to live like an animal for an unknown amount of time. Uncle, let me propose a toast to you. When Yun Ruoyan saw the tears in Lin Tianming's eyes, she knew that he must be reminiscing about the past, and she deliberately tried to divert his attention. Uncle, don't drink so much. It's not good for your legs. Lin Qingchen looked at Yun Ruoyan reproachfully. It's fine. I'm happy today, so I'd like to have a drink with you. Lin Tianming took the cup of wine from Yun Ruoyan's hand and downed it in one gulp. Lin Tianming finished his cup of wine and had Yun Ruoyan pour him another. Then he turned to Liam, a slaughtering king. I wasn't able to attend your wedding with Ruoyan, so consider this cup of wine a belated blessing. Thank you, uncle. Li Mo smiled as he finished his cup. Li Mo, Ruoyan. Qin Feng also raised a cup of wine to the two of them. I wasn't able to attend your wedding either, so this toast is to the both of you. As the meal progressed, Lin Qingxue was the only one who noticed Zhu Yifeng drinking alone in a corner. Zhu Yifeng also noticed Lin Qingxue's gaze, but he chose to ignore it. Lin Qingxue was a good girl, and Zhu Yifeng had always treated her as a younger sister. He knew that he couldn't love her and he didn't want to hurt her. Sigh. What a pitiful, pitiful person. Zhu Yifeng was just pouring a cup of bitter wine into his mouth when the sinister voice suddenly rang out in his head. Zhu Yifeng ignored it and continued drinking his wine. The demon spirit seemed to be someone who was extremely afraid of loneliness, and it would ramble on in Zhu Yifeng's head whenever it wanted to. Initially, Zhu Yifeng had grown numb to it. The person you like doesn't like you, and the person you like doesn't like you? This is the saddest thing in the world. But if such a thing were to happen to me, it would instantly become a good thing. Oh, what do you mean? Zhu Yifeng couldn't help but feel a little tipsy after drinking a dozen cups of wine. Such a thing can only be taught, not explained, the demon spirit replied. If you're willing to let me control your body, I'll only need a day to solve your problem. No, I don't even need a day. Ah, you're trying to trick me, but I won't fall for it. Zhu Yifeng downed another 7 or 8 cups of wine. As the saying went, drinking to drown one's sorrows, only to make them more sorrowful. I've already given up on Yun Ruoyan, Zhu Yifeng replied. No matter how much I like her, I won't ask for anything that doesn't belong to me. Was that so? The demon spirit laughed sinisterly, then fell silent. Zhou Yifeng poured himself a cup of wine and drank by himself. His vision began to blur, but his hearing became unusually clear. Every word of blessing for Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, as well as Yun Ruoyan's radiant smile, pierced Zhou Yifeng's heart. He suddenly felt a strong desire to make Yun Ruoyan his own. In a daze, Zhou Yifeng saw Li Mo, who was laughing and whispering with Yun Ruoyan, suddenly transform into himself. He saw himself and Yun Ruoyan looking at each other happily, returning the toast together. "This is the deepest desire in your heart." That sinister voice rang out in Zhou Yifeng's mind once more. Startled, Zhou Yifeng hurriedly shook his head, but Li Mo's face was still Zhou Yifeng's. Zhou Yifeng was both shocked and angry, and he stood up from his seat. Zhou Yifeng's actions were so abrupt that the chatting and drinking crowd immediately quieted down and looked toward him. "I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well, so I can't keep watch tonight. I'll be heading back to my room." Zhou Yifeng quickly left the room. "Demon spirit, what the hell are you doing?" Zhou Yifeng staggered back to his room as he berated the demon spirit in his mind. "Haha, I'm just showing you what you're thinking," the demon spirit replied. "I want you to face your truest desire. You can't forget Yun Ruoyan at all, and your heart is filled with the desire to take Li Mo's place. In that case, kill Li Mo and snatch Yun Ruoyan from him." "Kill Li Mo?" "Yes, kill Li Mo. He stole the woman you love the most." "Steal Yun Ruoyan from me? Of course, she's the woman you love the most. Of course you'd want her for yourself." "I'm definitely going to kill Li Mo. He's my enemy. But Yun Ruoyan doesn't even like me, so what's the point of stealing her from me?" Zhou Yifeng laughed self-deprecatingly. "You've never confessed to Yun Ruoyan. How do you know she doesn't like you?" Chapter 413. She just doesn't know that you like her too. The demon's sinister voice seemed to be enchanted. "Think back carefully. Did Yun Ruoyan treat you differently from others?" When Zhou Yifeng heard the demon spirit's words, he couldn't help but think back to when he had first met Yun Ruoyan, how she had helped him forge tiger canine arrowheads for him, and how she had arranged for him to stay with the Lin family. Gradually, Zhou Yifeng felt that Yun Ruoyan had indeed taken special care of him. "You're not bad yourself. Yun Ruoyan had a good impression of you from the start, but Li Mo beat her to it." "Is that true?" "Of course," the demon spirit affirmed. "What you need to do now is to snatch Yun Ruoyan back." "How?" "First, let her know your feelings," Mo Ling said. "Do you mean you want me to confess?" "Yes, a confession." The demon spirit further bewitched him. "Think about it. If one day you accidentally lose your life in battle, and the girl you like doesn't know your feelings for her, that would be the saddest thing in the world." "Confess, I want to confess. I must confess before I die. I want to let her know that I like her." Zhou Yifeng's body swayed drunkenly as he walked, mumbling to himself. Midnight had passed and Yun Ruoyan had finally turned 16. Whether it was on the Qinyuan continent or the Heiyuan continent, 15 was considered an adult and 16 was a true adult. Under the illumination of the fireworks, Yun Ruoyan couldn't help turning to look at Li Mo, who was hugging her. Sensing her gaze, Li Mo turned to look at her. Li Mo murmured. "You've finally grown up." Yun Ruoyan frowned. "I grew up a long time ago." "Really?" Li Mo raised an eyebrow and whispered something into Yun Ruoyan's ear. Yun Ruoyan's face and ears immediately reddened. He said, when we go back, give your husband a child." Yun Ruoyan didn't respond. Instead, she nodded slightly. Li Mo smiled happily, as radiant as the fireworks in the sky, radiating a warm glow. At the end of the night watch, everyone returned to their own courtyards to rest. "Sis, can I sleep with you tonight?" Lin Xianxia asked pitifully as she tugged at Lin Qingqian's sleeve. "If you're not afraid of the little things in my house, then come at me," Lin Qingqian said. Lin Qingqian had not been idle during this period of time. Not only did she learn medical skills from Feng Bo, but she also brought all the rare and strange elixirs, insects that could be used as medicine, and little magical beasts into her courtyard. Every day, apart from eating and resting, she would also cultivate. She continued her previous life as an otaku who specialized in research. Lin Xianxia had originally thought that Lin Qingqian's life was boring and uninteresting, but now she was a little envious of Lin Qingqian, who wasn't bothered by the mundane matters of the outside world and could only focus on doing what she liked. As far as Lin Xianxia could remember, Lin Xianxia had never been bothered by anything for long. Once she immersed herself in her research, the outside world seemed to have nothing to do with her. Of course I'm not afraid. I'm not even afraid of crybabies, so what else can scare me? Lin Xianxia puffed out her chest. All right, come at me. Lin Xianxia smiled. When Lin Xianxia stepped into Lin Xianxia's courtyard, she couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. What the hell is that? Lin Xianxia pointed at a large cage in the corner of the courtyard, within which was a black, indistinguishable creature that was currently snoring. Its snoring was deafening, and it was clear that the big fellow had fallen asleep. It's a sleeping bear, Lin Xianxia replied. I got a prescription for insomnia from the Count of the Wind, and one of the important ingredients is the blood of this sleeping bear. Lin Xianxia said. Sis, you're the best. When Lin Xianxia heard Lin Xianxia's words, she tugged at the corner of Lin Xianxia's clothes and said coquettishly, How did you know that I've been suffering from insomnia recently? Lin Xianxia glanced at her. Don't think too highly of yourself. This medicine isn't for you. Then who is it for? Lin Xianxia was a little confused. Uncle doesn't suffer from insomnia. He created his own divine sleeping technique so he can sleep whenever he wants. Then why don't you let my father teach you? I did, but Uncle said that this technique is only suitable for himself, and that it would harm my body if I practiced it, so he wasn't willing to teach me, Lin Xianxia said helplessly. Lin Xianxia sighed helplessly. She then asked Lin Xianxia curiously, If you're not concocting this medicine for me or Uncle, then who are you concocting it for? Lin Xianxia wouldn't tell her, so Lin Xianxia kept asking. Even after the two of them finished washing up and went to bed, Lin Xianxia still didn't give up. It's for Auntie Hong, the one from the performing arts team. Lin Xianxia was annoyed by her sister's questions. She's currently trying to win over the head of a small family. He has insomnia, and when Auntie Hong came to Wine City last time, she specifically came to visit me and asked if I could prescribe a medicine to treat his insomnia. Oh, so that's how it is. Lin Xianxia tugged at the corner of Lin Xianxia's clothes. Sis, why don't you give me a little more? No. Lin Xianxia mercilessly tugged the corner of her clothes back from her sister's hands. What you have isn't insomnia but a heart disease, and a heart disease needs medicine to be cured. A heart disease needs medicine to be cured. Lin Xianxia repeated Lin Xianxia's words, muttering to herself, What's the medicine for my heart disease? You like Zhou Yifeng, but Zhou Yifeng likes Sister Ruoyan. Lin Xianxia turned around and looked at her sister. In the dim light of the bed, Lin Xianxia's words had hit the nail on the head. She pursed her lips, lowered her eyes, and didn't make a sound. Your heart disease right now is that, first, you can't let go of Zhou Yifeng, but he's always been cold to you. Second, you're jealous of Sister Run, jealous that Zhou Yifeng likes her and not you. I'm not, Lin Xianxia hurriedly denied. I'm just, perhaps not to the extent of jealousy, Lin Xianxia continued. But there's always some resentment. During this period of time, Lin Xianxia could clearly see that Lin Xianxia wasn't as close to her as before, but this was understandable. However, there were a few times when Lin Xianxia noticed that Lin Xianxia's gaze toward Yun Ruoyan was tinged with jealousy, and she wanted to find an opportunity to chat with Lin Xianxia. As a result, even if Lin Xianxia didn't look for Lin Xianxia tonight, Lin Xianxia would look for her of her own accord. But you know better than anyone that Sister Ruoyan's heart has always been with the slaughtering king. Whether Zhou Yifeng likes you or not has nothing to do with Sister Ruoyan, Lin Xianxia continued. You're just unwilling to admit it. Sister, don't say any more. Lin Xianxia covered her face with her hands. But Lin Xianxia didn't intend to stop. Whether you want to hear it or not, I'm going to say this. Whether you like Zhou Yifeng or not is your own business, and don't resent anyone else. Whether Zhou Yifeng likes you or not is between the two of you, and don't resent anyone else. You'll be able to sleep soundly if you don't resent anyone else. Lin Xianxia began to cry, her tears seeping through the gaps between her fingers, wetting her hair and Lin Xianxia's pillow. Lin Xianxia rubbed Lin Xianxia's thick earlobes in disgust, recalling how she'd always comforted Lin Xianxia like this when she was scolded for being mischievous. Lin Xianxia said softly, Cry, you'll be fine once you cry. Sister, my heart hurts so much, Lin Xianxia whimpered. No matter how much your heart hurts, it'll slowly get better. Lin Xianxia hugged Lin Xianxia and patted her back. But if your heart changes color, it'll be hard to change it back. Sister, do you think I can forget Brother Zhou? That's hard to say, Lin Qingchen replied honestly. It's best if you can forget him, but it's fine if you can't. As long as you remember that liking him is your own business, and don't force anyone else or resent anyone else, you'll be able to live a good life. Perhaps your heart will ache when you think of him, but most of the time you'll still be happy. Can I really do that? Lin Qingxu finally removed her hands from her face and looked at her sister. Of course. Lin Qingchen's face was full of confidence. When have I ever lied to you? Have a good sleep. Tomorrow is a new year. Lin Qingchen finally fell into a deep sleep in her sister's embrace. After the new year, there were still 10 days before the truce would end. The Count of the Wind began training the warriors, while Zhou Yifeng and Qin Feng returned to the ranks of the warriors. For this battle, both of them had been assigned to a secret squad of warriors. They would train together with the elites of the squad, fight together, and complete difficult and dangerous missions together. One day, Yun Ruoyan received a mission from none other than Lin Qingchen herself. Lin Qingchen first sought out Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, then found the Count of the Wind. Auntie Hong has sent word that the small families she's roped in have decided to contribute as many warriors as they can to help Wind City fight against Thunderbolt City. Lin Qingchen handed a slip of paper to the Count of the Wind. The Count of the Wind took the slip of paper and carefully read the words on it. Where did you get this news from? Lin Qingchen told him about the medicine that Auntie Hong had asked her to concoct for insomnia. Auntie Hong said that once I finished concocting the medicine, I should go to the eastern part of the city to find a traveling merchant called Huaida and give him the medicine. Lin Qingchen said, a few days ago I gave the medicine to Huaida. A few days later Huaida found me and gave me this slip of paper. He said that Auntie Hong had personally written it and asked me to give it to you. Yun Ruoyan saw that the Count of the Wind's expression was a little serious. Count of the Wind, are you doubting the authenticity of this letter? Chapter 4:14. We have a secret way of contacting Miss Hong. Why would she send a message through a traveling merchant? Feng Bo was puzzled. Perhaps that merchant is faster, Yun Ruoyan guessed. I've seen Auntie Hong's handwriting before, and this is indeed her handwriting. As the leader of a rather famous troupe, it wasn't unusual for Auntie Hong to have her own means of communication, but Count Feng still found it a little strange. The letter says that Miss Yun is to personally receive these warriors tomorrow. Why is that? Count Feng asked. There's indeed something fishy about this matter. Sister Ruan, it's best if you don't go. Lin Qingchen nodded. Sister Ruan, I don't think you should go. I can send someone else, Count Feng agreed. Even if there's something fishy going on, I still have to go, Yun Ruoyan replied. If I don't go, how will I know what they're up to? Both Lin Qingchen and Count Feng turned to look at Li Mo, who was standing behind Yun Ruoyan, hoping that he could persuade Yun Ruoyan not to take such a risk. Go then, Li Mo replied coolly. But don't leave a 1-meter radius from me. The next day Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo went to the outskirts of Windy City to wait for the warriors from the smaller families to arrive at the location indicated on the note. Sure enough, not long after the two arrived at the destination, 7 or 8 people on horseback appeared on the road in the distance. Only 7 or 8, Yun Ruoyan replied, somewhat surprised. I thought there would be at least 50. Something's fishy, Li Mo murmured as he looked at the approaching figures. At first, the two of them thought that regardless of whether the note was true or not, they would only have to deal with a handful of people. If it were true, then each of the smaller families would send 4 or 5 warriors, which would be 40 to 50 people. But if it were false, there wouldn't only be 7 or 8 people trying to capture Yun Ruoyan. After so many exchanges, the enemies wouldn't look down on the two of them so much. The group of 7 or 8 people finally arrived in front of Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, separated by about 30 feet. Each of them was dressed in black and their faces were all masked, making it impossible to tell where they'd come from. Who are you people? Yun Ruoyan asked. Ha ha ha. The leader of the black-clothed men suddenly laughed. Yun Ruoyan, you really came. The voice sounded very familiar. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Rong Yueshan, it's you. It's me. Hee hee, you didn't expect this, did you? Rong Yueshan immediately pulled down the veil on her face. I didn't expect that I'm still alive and can appear in front of you. Yun Ruoyan looked at Rong Yueshan's face and frowned. What happened to your face? My face. Rong Yueshan covered the left side of her face with her hand. It's all thanks to your senior sister, that Guan Ruliu. If she hadn't insisted on running away, I wouldn't have reported her to the Lai clan, and I wouldn't have been kept as a slave. I reported Guan Ruliu and the others, the young city lord of the Lai family. Not only did Lai Sun refuse to reward me, he even said that I'm not a good person and had his subordinates carve 2 words on my face. If Rong Yueshan hadn't said anything, Yun Ruoyan wouldn't have been able to tell what the words were. She imbued her eyes with spiritual energy and looked carefully, only to see that her originally pretty face was covered with many scratches, concealing the 2 words she'd been writing. However, Yun Ruoyan could vaguely make out that the 2 words were, traitor. You're really someone who doesn't know when to wake up and you blame everything on others. Because of your denunciation, more than a dozen of your peers died, Yun Ruoyan said coldly. Lai Sun, you've done the right thing this time. You're a traitor through and through. I'm not a traitor, Rong Yueshan shouted. They were the ones who didn't know what was good for them, and they even tried to drag me down with them. If I hadn't denounced them, I would have been the one to die. Look, I'm still alive and well, but Guan Ruliu and the others are all dead. Ah, they're all dead. Yun Ruoyan's heart skipped a beat. What did you say? What happened to senior sister Guan? Dead. Rong Yueshan repeated. Haven't I made myself clear enough? She's dead. After Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo had rescued Guan Ruliu and the other 2 juniors from the Carefree Cave, they'd entrusted them to Feng Yicheng, who'd sent them to the Feng residence. However, once they'd recovered from their injuries, they left a letter and left the residence. In the letter, they said that they couldn't forget how their peers had died in front of them, and that as long as they didn't kill Rong Yueshan, they wouldn't be able to rest in peace. As a result, the 3 of them had left Feng City to kill Rong Yueshan. By the time Yun Ruoyan returned, this was the letter she saw. Yun Ruoyan knew Guan Ruliu's personality well. Although she appeared gentle on the surface, she was incredibly stubborn, and once she set her mind on something, it would be extremely difficult for her to change her mind. Moreover, she was usually calm and collected, so Yun Ruoyan could only let her be. But unexpectedly she died. You don't believe me, do you? That's right, seeing is believing. Rong Yueshan's face was full of smiles, as if satisfied with Yun Ruoyan's shock. She waved a hand at the black-clad men behind her. Bring it here. As soon as Rong Yueshan finished speaking, 3 black-clad men stepped forward, each of them holding a black box in their hands. Open it. Rong Yueshan ordered, and the 3 black-clad men opened the box. In the cold, bright winter sun, Yun Ruoyan could clearly see what was inside the box. 3 human heads, 3 female heads. Their long hair was disheveled and their faces were ferocious. Their eyes were wide open, filled with dissatisfaction and indignation. These 3 people were none other than Guan Ruliu and her 2 junior sisters. Rong Yueshan, Yun Ruoyan screamed, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. Yun Ruoyan's feet lit up with a red sword aura. At the same time, the scarlet eye in her hand appeared, and she leapt into the air and slashed at Rong Yueshan. Yen Li Mo called out, then followed closely behind Yun Ruoyan. Protect me. Rong Yueshan's face paled as she hurriedly retreated. The warriors behind her stepped in front of her. Yun Ruoyan's scarlet eye had turned from scarlet to blood red, a sign of bloodlust. None of the 7 or 8 warriors were particularly skilled, and their cultivations were only about the same as Yun Ruoyan's. In front of Li Mo, they were nothing more than cannon fodder. Yun Ruoyan's scarlet eye was extremely powerful, and the black-clad warriors who were about the same level of cultivation as Yun Ruoyan were no match for the sword in her hands. In a short while, they were either stabbed to death or half-injured by Yun Ruoyan's sword. Li Mo could tell that Yun Ruoyan's violent rage was caused by the demonic dragon's blood in her body, and the only way to quench this rage was with fresh blood. Li Mo stood guard by the side, blocking all of the warriors' attacks. All Yun Ruoyan had to do was stab the scarlet eye into the bodies of her enemies and use their blood to quench her rage. Rong Yueshan began to panic. You can't kill me. I'm a member of the Li family now, and I've pledged my allegiance to the Li family. After Lai Sun had carved that word on her face, Rong Yueshan knew that she wouldn't be able to make a name for herself in the Feng family. At that time, the Li family was busy trying to capture Yun Ruoyan and Feng Yicheng. As the saying went, the enemy of an enemy was a friend. As a result, Rong Yueshan escaped from the Feng family and successfully pledged her allegiance to the Li family. When Guan Ruliu and the other two arrived at Lai City and learned that Rong Yueshan had escaped, they followed the traces she had left behind all the way to the Li family. Just as they were about to sneak into the Li manor, they were caught by Guan Ruliu, who had long since been on guard. In the end, they died in the dungeon where Zhou Yifeng had been tortured. As Yun Ruoyan chopped vegetables, she glanced at Rong Yueshan coldly. The Li family deserves to die even more. Yun Ruoyan chopped off the head of one of the black-clad warriors and appeared in front of Rong Yueshan. She pointed the scarlet eye at the tip of Rong Yueshan's nose. "You can't kill me." Rong Yueshan cried out in fear. "The Li family has captured the entire troop, everyone. I'm here to tell you all to surrender now, or else everyone in the art team will die." Rong Yueshan's hand trembled as she held onto the scarlet eye. "Then I'll kill you first." And Feng Mian, the Li family has captured Feng Mian, the only son of Feng Yenyang, the young lord of Wind City. Rong Yueshan hurriedly added, "I'm only here to pass on a message. If you kill me, one of the troop's members will die with me. I heard that a girl named Shao Qing was on good terms with you, so I chose her as my scapegoat. If I don't return in time, she'll die a horrible death just like the rest of them, ha." Rong Yueshan pointed at the boxes on the ground and laughed sinisterly. One of the boxes was tilted to the side and Guan Ruliu's head rolled out of it. His eyes stared fixedly at Rong Yueshan. Rong Yueshan's laughter abruptly stopped. In a trembling voice she said, "Don't look at me, you're the ones who asked to die. You can't blame me for this, I didn't kill you. Those fellow disciples were not killed by me, but by the warriors of the Lai clan. I didn't want to kill you, but you forced my hand." Rong Yueshan's sinister smile turned into a grimace. Tears and snot flowed down her face, and the scratches on her face made her look like a ghost. "Go." Yun Ruoyan put away the scarlet eye. "Before I kill the troop's sisters and the young lord of the city, you'd better find a place to hide. Otherwise, if I find you, I'll tear you to shreds." Chapter 4:15. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo rushed back to Fengqing to report to Feng Yenyang that the Wind Crown and the performance troupe had been captured. When the two of them entered the city lord's manor and met with Feng Yenyang, they learned that not long after they left the city, he and Count of Feng had received news from the border city. The Wind Crown and the members of the artistic troupe were all captured last night. They were attacked almost at the same time. They guessed that the whereabouts of the performance troupe had long been under the control of the Li father and son. The only reason they hadn't captured them yet was because they wanted to use them as bait to catch a bigger fish. However, instead of catching a big fish, the performance troupe had managed to win over quite a number of smaller fish from their own camp. As a result, the Li father and son grew anxious. As for Feng Mian, he was Feng Yenyang's son, the young lord of Wind City, and Feng Yenyang's only son and heir to the Wind City. He was a cautious person. Although he did not have much talent, he had never caused any trouble for Feng Yenyang. But Feng Mian was somewhat arrogant. During this period of time, Feng Yicheng had been in the limelight in Wind City and had received much praise from Feng Yenyang. Feng Yicheng had even told Feng Mian to learn from him. This had dealt a blow to Feng Mian's self-esteem, and in order to prove himself, he volunteered to stay with the Count of Feng to guard the city. During this period of time, Feng Mian had been very diligent in the border city. He hadn't even returned for the new year, instead volunteering to spend the new year with the city guards. This made Feng Yenyang look at his son in a different light, but he hadn't expected that Feng Mian would be captured by the Li family. Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo, and the Count of Feng all looked at Feng Yenyang, who was sitting at the head of the table, frowning as they awaited his orders. "We can't agree to their request," Feng Yenyang said after a long pause. Feng Yenyang said after a long time. Although he had already made up his mind, it was not easy to say it out loud. His only son's life was in his hands, but he couldn't save him at all. This kind of heartache wasn't something that an ordinary person could bear. "Lord Feng." The Count of Feng bowed deeply to Feng Yenyang. "Perhaps we can use a delaying tactic and surrender first in exchange for the young lord's release, then find an opportunity to seek justice from the Li father and son." "I'm afraid not." Feng Yenyang shook his head helplessly. The thin face of a middle-aged man seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. He handed a secret letter to Feng Bo. The Count of Feng read the letter from beginning to end, and his brows furrowed more and more tightly. Finally, he sighed imperceptibly and handed the letter to Yun Ruian and Liemo. The two of them opened the letter and read it from beginning to end. Most of the contents of the letter were the same as what Rong Yueshan had said, but there was an additional condition at the very end. Yun Ruian and Liemo were to be exchanged for the Wind Crown and the rest of the performing arts troupe. When Yun Ruian saw this, her heart was filled with anger. This father and son pair had really gone to great lengths to capture her. City Lord Feng Yun Ruian took a step forward and was about to say that she was willing to exchange for Yun Ruian when Liemo grabbed her from behind. City Lord Feng, what do you have in mind? Liemo pulled Yun Ruian back to his side. Feng Yenyang stood up from his seat, his thin body ramrod straight. His gaze landed on Yun Ruian and Liemo. I've only just received the news and to be honest I don't have a good plan for the time being. But don't worry, the two of you, the Wind City won't use you as hostages to exchange for anyone else. Yun Ruian and Liemo were both touched by Feng Yenyang's words. Thank you, City Lord Feng. Liemo cupped his fists at Feng Yenyang. We'll do our best to help wherever we can. Then Feng Yenyang summoned Feng Yicheng to the City Lord's manor to discuss a plan together. The few of them discussed all the way until midnight before they finally came up with a few countermeasures. Feng Yenyang personally wrote a letter to attack Thunderbolt City, and in the letter he criticized and despised Thunderbolt Flame for kidnapping his son Feng Yenyang, and called him a treacherous villain who only knew how to scheme and could not be brought into the open. Feng Yicheng would then be responsible for distributing the documents to all the families and cities on the Netherworld continent. This would undoubtedly put pressure on the Thunderflame family. Although Thunderflame wasn't a gentleman, he was extremely prideful. Although the pressure of public opinion wouldn't be enough to force him to release Feng Mian, he wouldn't easily kill him either. Yun Ruian and Liemo then rushed to Lai City overnight to request for reinforcements. Although there were still a few days before the start of the war, Feng Yenyang decided to attack the Thunderflame family first in order to show that he wouldn't be threatened. The next morning, Feng Yenyang and Feng Bo were escorted by the secret warriors to the front lines of the border city. He would be personally commanding the war between the two cities, the war of the entire Nether Abyss continent. The secret warriors had been sent out to carry out missions since the beginning of the war, and this time the entire squad was mobilized, including Zhou Yifeng and Qin Feng. A few days later, the squad arrived at the main battlefield between the two cities, a town called Gold Sun. As for Yun Ruian and Liemo, as soon as they arrived at Lai City, they received a squad of nearly 500 warriors, and this was only the first batch of reinforcements the city had prepared. As it turned out, as soon as Liemo and Yun Ruian left, the Laiyan Empire had already begun preparing for reinforcements. Yun Ruian and Liemo looked at the warriors in the squad. They were all 9th rank blade masters, and they would definitely be a formidable force on the battlefield. What's more, this was just a small group. The Laiyan Empire promised to send at least 2,000 warriors to the battleground. Yun Ruian led the first batch of 500 warriors toward Gold Sun. 2 days later they arrived at Gold Sun and met up with Feng Yenyang and the others. By then Feng Yicheng had also arrived, and Feng Yenyang's letter had already spread throughout the entire Netherworld continent. Moreover, the Thunderflame father and son had a poor reputation to begin with, and this incident had pushed them into the teeth of the storm. After this war, the one who became the ruler of the Dark Abyss continent would have unprecedented control over the entire Nether Abyss continent. People naturally hoped for a relatively tolerant person to become such a leader. Otherwise, everyone's life would be difficult in the future. Thus, in a short period of time, those who were inclined towards the Thunder Clan because of the Thunder Clan's strength gradually leaned towards the Feng Clan. As a result, the Thunderflame family's reputation plummeted to unprecedented levels. Within the City Lord's manor, Thunderflame clenched the letter tightly in his hand, crushing it into powder. He hadn't expected that this unexpected operation would end in such a manner. He couldn't help but feel as if he'd slapped himself in the face, and he desperately needed to vent his anger. Father, I didn't expect the Feng clan to be so cunning. They really caught us off guard. Thunderbolt Batian sat on a nearby seat, his fingers constantly twirling a simple and unadorned ring. Humph. Thunderflame snorted coldly and angrily. Summon that escaped slave from the Lai family, That ugly girl who has a deep grudge against Yun Ruoyan. Let's see what good ideas she has. Father. Thunderflame stood up from his seat. I'm afraid that even Yun Ruoyan didn't expect this to happen. I'm also guilty of negligence and we can't pin all the blame on her. When Thunderflame heard Thunderflame's words, he couldn't help but feel a little surprised. This arrogant son of his was actually pleading on behalf of a mere slave girl. This was something that had never happened before. You're actually pleading on behalf of a mere slave girl? Thunderflame said. It looks like this girl isn't simple at all. That's not it. Thunderflame hurriedly said. Father, please don't misunderstand. We're in need of manpower right now, and if we heavily punish those who have come to us, it might have a negative impact. Furthermore, there are many rumors about us out there, and we're not in a position to punish her too harshly. Why don't we let her use her merits to make up for her mistakes? Thunderflame paused for a moment before saying, That's fine. However, this girl's heart is filled with venom. You have to be careful of her. Your son will remember. Thunderflame bowed. Seeing that Thunderflame's complexion had improved slightly, he continued. This time, although we've been used by the Feng family, at least we've gained quite a few captives. Even if we can't kill or use them now due to the pressure of public opinion, they'll still be useful in the future. Moreover, Thunderflame leaned closer to Thunderflame's ear, speaking in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Your son also has some ideas. Father, do you think it's feasible? Thunderflame whispered in Thunderflame's ear for a long time. Thunderflame nodded as he listened, the anger on his face slowly turning into a smile. After whispering, Thunderbolt Batian placed his hands behind his back and looked at Thunderflame's expression. From his expression, Thunderbolt Batian could tell that his father agreed with his idea. Not bad. As expected, Thunderflame was full of praise. The student has truly surpassed the master. In the future, your achievements will definitely surpass your father. Tian, our only wish is to help Father bring the Nether Abyss continent under our Thunderflame clan's feet. I want to help Father accomplish your ambitions. Thunderflame bowed once more. Thunderflame looked at Thunderflame and smiled in satisfaction. Young lord, this servant. The moment Thunderflame entered the master bedroom in his courtyard, a veiled beauty came forward to greet him. However, in the next instant there was a loud slap. Thunderflame's palm landed on the beauty's cheek, causing her to fall to the ground. Chapter 416. The beauty's veil was blown away, revealing a crisscrossed scar on the left side of her face. This beauty was none other than Rong Yueshan. Rong Yueshan turned over and knelt on the ground. She hurriedly covered her face with her veil and covered her disfigured face. Slut. Pai Batian unceremoniously stepped on Rong Yueshan's shoulder. Look at what kind of rotten idea you've come up with. Now, my father and I have become the most disdainful nobles in the entire Netherworld continent. Are you satisfied? I didn't do it on purpose. Rong Yueshan pitifully replied. Her petite body was trembling in fear, and her fair and delicate body was faintly discernible under her thin dress. Pai Batian couldn't help but slowly shift his foot from Rong Yueshan's shoulder to her back. He lightly rubbed that tender area with the soles of his feet, but the figure of another woman appeared in his mind. That woman was also petite and delicate, but her gaze was like a knife. She wasn't like the person beneath his feet who seemed like a ball of white flour for him to knead. Rong Yueshan sensed that there was a hidden meaning behind Pai Batian's actions. She raised her face that was covered by a veil and looked at Pai Batian with her big watery eyes. She murmured, "Young city lord." Pai Batian bent down and grabbed Rong Yueshan's chin, then lifted her up. Like a burlap sack, he slung her over his shoulder and walked over to the bed. After knocking down the veil, Pai Batian threw Rong Yueshan onto the bed without pity. What followed was an incomparably rough treatment. Rong Yueshan tightly gripped the black velvet sheets on the bed. The pain and humiliation caused her tears to gush out, but she could only swallow them back and bite her lips to prevent herself from making a sound of pain. She kept telling herself in her heart, I have to live, I have to get revenge from Yun Ruoyan. Everything that I've suffered was caused by Yun Ruoyan. Even if I die, I have to die after Yun Ruoyan. As if hypnotized, Rong Yueshan gradually became numb to the pain. She no longer felt pain, nor did she feel humiliated. Instead, she began to cater to Pai Baishan's barbaric behavior. She began to laugh, a heart-wrenching laugh, a heart-wrenching laugh. After a while, the sky turned dark. Rong Yueshan awoke from her temporary coma. She looked down to see that her body was covered in bruises, and her entire body was sore, as if it had been disassembled and then reassembled. In the darkness of the night, a pair of beast-like eyes were staring at her. Sensing that cold and dangerous gaze, she couldn't help but raise her head slowly and meet Thunderbolt Baishan's gaze. Rong Yueshan's entire body quivered. She steadied herself and asked in a trembling voice, "Young governor, are you thirsty? Would you like me to pour you a cup of tea?" Pai Batian stared at Rong Yueshan for a long while. Just as Rong Yueshan was trembling, he suddenly sat up, pulled aside the curtains and got off the bed. He put on his clothes and prepared to leave. But when he reached the door, he suddenly turned to Rong Yueshan. "You follow me." Rong Yueshan followed Pai Batian to a dungeon. There were 2 cells in the dungeon, one of which was larger and in poorer condition, and it held a dozen or so girls from the performing troupe. When the 2 of them passed by the entrance of this cell, half of the girls inside were awake and they were looking at the 2 of them with disdain and hatred. Rong Yueshan followed closely behind Pai Batian. In the past, Rong Yueshan would have looked down on such lowly girls, as they were the filthiest species in the world. But now Rong Yueshan was even more filthy and lowly than they were. Although Rong Yueshan wasn't willing to admit it, she knew that this was the truth, and she still habitually blamed it on Yun Ruoyan. As for Pai Batian, he swept his cold gaze across the group of girls. These girls were all rather good-looking and none of them had poor family backgrounds. It was just that they had lost their homes because of the Pai family. In the process of being captured, some of them had their clothes torn by some warriors intentionally or unintentionally. Many of them were in a state of disheveled clothing. However, there was a girl in a corner whose eyes were slightly squinted. She had quite a few tattered clothes draped over her body, but they covered her body tightly. There was even a heroic-looking girl standing guard by her side. Hoodlum looked fearlessly at Pai Batian. If he dared to harm a single hair on her mistress's head, no one would doubt that she would fight him to the death, even if she had to sacrifice her entire body. "Young city lord, are you here to interrogate a prisoner?" A sleepy guard stood at the side and bowed to Thunderclap Batian as he asked. "Are these lowly servants worthy of being interrogated by me?" Pai Batian retorted coldly. "Of course not. Of course not." The guard looked rather wretched, and when he was frightened by Pai Baishan's words, he shivered and immediately ran away. At the same time, his wretched face revealed a timid expression. "I don't know how to speak, young master, please don't blame me," Pai Batian interrupted the guard with a hand gesture. Pai Batian had seen far too many guards like this. In front of the prisoners they acted as if they were bigger than the heavens, but in front of the prisoners they were even smaller than rats. However, Pai Batian both hated and liked such people. Pai Batian turned his head to look at the guard, and the guard hurriedly lowered his head. Pai Batian slowly said, "I'm giving you a wonderful task. You must do it well. If you do it well, this young master will reward you. I will definitely climb a mountain of swords and dive into a pot of oil to complete this task for young master." The guard immediately swore. "There's no need for you to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a pot of oil." Pai Batian smiled sinisterly. "This beautiful task will definitely call you." The guard was somewhat puzzled. He lifted his head to look at Pai Batian and asked, "I wonder what young master is referring to?" "This wonderful task is the beautiful women in that cell. You will be responsible for finding warriors like you. Of course, you can also do it yourself. In short, no matter what methods you use, serve them well for me." Pai Batian cruelly said, "You must make them suffer a fate worse than death. It doesn't matter even if they die. Then hang them at the city gate and paste the slogan "Spy" on their bodies. Spread the word that they are spies sent by Wind City and our vixens. Let the entire city curse and trample on them." "Yes, this slave obeys." The wretched-looking guard smiled. His smile was so wretched that it couldn't be described with words. Thunderbolt Batian averted his gaze and was about to walk to the next cell when he suddenly thought of something. He turned his head and said, "Don't touch the red-clothed woman in the corner and the woman with some cultivation beside her for now." "Yes, young master." The wretched-looking guard bowed again. Only then did Pai Batian walk to the next cell with satisfaction. Rong Yueshan followed behind Pai Batian. As she passed by the interrogation room and the hundreds of torture instruments, her footsteps were neither fast nor slow, neither light nor heavy, as though she was taking a leisurely stroll in the courtyard. Pai Batian was quite satisfied with her performance to be so calm in such a place. But only Rong Yueshan knew that her heart was beating like a drum at this moment. If it weren't for the cloak covering her back, people would definitely see that her clothes were soaked in cold sweat. After walking past the interrogation room, there was a smaller cell. In this cell was the young master of Wind City, Feng Mian. Feng Mian didn't sleep. Instead he was sitting on a hard wooden couch. Next to the wooden couch was a wooden table. An oil lamp flickered weakly, illuminating a bowl of cold porridge and 2 cold steamed buns. Although Feng Yenyang had never spoiled Feng Mian, the Feng clan had always been very particular about food, drink, and accommodation. A place like this was undoubtedly a place of purgatory for Feng Mian. It was already very good that he could still maintain his tidy appearance and demeanor. Young Master Feng, you have been wronged. I invited you as a guest, but you have to stay in a place like this. Pai Batian stood outside the cell and said to Feng Mian through the iron bars. When Feng Mian heard Pai Batian's voice, his slightly narrowed eyes suddenly opened and his body abruptly straightened. He was obviously startled by Pai Batian's sudden arrival. Young Master Pai. Feng Mian vigilantly looked at Pai Batian and said, "What is your purpose in coming here now?" Feng Mian had been captured for 2 days, but he had been locked up here without anyone asking. The 2 cities were now at war. Feng Mian naturally knew what it meant for him to be captured. He also guessed that the Pai clan would definitely use him as a bargaining chip to negotiate with his father. The reason why they ignored him was naturally because the negotiation didn't have any results. Once there was a result, then Feng Mian's own fate would be decided. Whether he lived or died would be decided in these 2 days. Therefore, Pai Batian's sudden appearance in the middle of the night naturally shocked Feng Mian. Young Master Feng, don't be nervous. Pai Batian said leisurely, I'm not here to kill you. I'm just here to inform you of some bad news. What bad news? Pai Batian noticed that Feng Mian's arms, which were placed on his knees, were involuntarily clenching into fists. His lips curled into an imperceptible disdainful smile as he said, Brother Feng must have guessed that Feng Mian didn't agree to our conditions. Not only did he not agree, but he also publicized our conditions to the world so that the world could slander our Pai clan. Is he forcing us to get rid of you so that he won't have to worry about the consequences? No, he won't. Feng Mian suddenly stood up and emotionally said, I am the only bloodline of the Feng clan, the only son of father, the only successor of Wind City. Father will definitely come and save me. Chapter 417. Brother Feng, it's not that I want to discourage you, but this is the truth. Thunderbolt Batian coldly said, I'm afraid your father already sees you as a stumbling block in his path of dominating the Nether Abyss continent. That's why he wants to borrow the Thunderbolt clan's hand to eliminate you. This way the Thunderbolt clan will be cursed by the world and won't be popular. Oh, it's not like that. Wind Crown kept shaking his head. The fear of being captured, coupled with the fact that he had been locked up for the past few days and Thunderclap Heaven's attack in the middle of the night, had caused Wind Crown's brain to become sluggish. It was easier for him to trust his own ears than his own family. But my father and I don't want to do as he wishes. Thunderbolt Batian continued, we won't kill you. Guards. Thunderclap Batian ordered. Soon another guard stepped forward and asked Thunderclap Batian if he had any instructions. Open the cell door. Thunderbolt Batian said, prepare a good room for young Lord Feng and treat him well. Yes, this lowly one will do it right away. The guard opened the door of the cell and ran out like a wisp of smoke. Yueshan, go help young noble Feng out. Thunderbolt Batian gave Rong Yueshan a look. Rong Yueshan quickly went into the cell and helped the dazed Feng Mian out. You really want to let me out? Feng Mian asked, what are your conditions? Although Feng Mian wasn't a very talented person, he wasn't stupid either. He naturally knew that everything had a purpose. The Feng and Thunderbolt clans have never been on good terms. I don't have any friendship with you, young Lord Thunderbolt. Feng Mian said word by word. In reality, it was not as simple as having no friendship between the two of them. In the past, the two of them had fought and verbally offended each other on many occasions. Brother Feng. Thunderbolt Bat-Yin smiled faintly. As the saying goes, no discord, no concord. I believe that you aren't such a narrow-minded person. As for what you want, I naturally do. However, my Thunderbolt clan isn't after your life. Thunderbolt Bat-Yin didn't tell Feng Mian what he wanted. He only said that he would tell him when the time came. Seeing that Thunderbolt Bat-Yin didn't want to say anything, Feng Mian nervously left the cell. As soon as he left the cell, he took a deep breath of the outside air. The rotten smell in the cell made him suffocate for the past 2 days, and the humid air made him uncomfortable all over. Wind Crown no longer cared about any schemes. He only wanted to quickly take a hot bath and have a good sleep on a comfortable, soft bed. It would be best if he woke up with good wine and food to fill his empty stomach for a few days. All of these were realized under Thunderclap Baishan's orders. Not only that, Thunderclap Bat-Yin even sent Rong Yueshan into Wind Crown's room to serve him. Rong Yueshan's massage skills made all the soreness that Wind Crown had suffered from the past few days disappear. Just like that, Crown Wind stayed in the Thunderclap Manor, half under house arrest and half as a guest. He had no idea that his father Yun Ruian and the others were busy trying to save him. Even the war between the two cities was brought forward because of him. One day, Feng Yenyang found Crown Wind's personal warrior and asked him what happened when Crown Wind was kidnapped. The warrior stammered a little, and Feng Yenyang immediately knew that something was amiss. Under the threat of the city lord, the warrior finally told him what happened that day. That was under the premise that all the defense work in the city had been done well. There was a warrior who was close to Wind Crown, so he urged Wind Crown to invite everyone to the Red Flower Alley to have some fun. At first, Wind Crown refused, but he couldn't stand everyone's urging, so he agreed. Then a group of 5 or 6 warriors went to a remote brothel to have some fun. Unexpectedly, while they were drunk and snoring, the Thunderclap warriors who had been lying in ambush in the brothel suddenly barged into the room and took Crown Wind, who was still drunk. Preposterous! Feng Yenyang angrily slammed his palm on the table in front of him, shattering the teacup on it into many pieces. The young city lord of the Feng clan actually brought his warriors to such a lowly place to have some fun? This is preposterous. City lord, please calm down. Feng Bo saw that Feng Yenyang was trembling with anger and quickly said. Feng Yenyang turned to look at Feng Bo and asked, I entrusted Mian Air to you and told you to teach him well. Why didn't you discipline him and let him do something so preposterous? And he was kidnapped in a brothel while drunk. City lord, please calm down. Count of Wind spoke again. The young city lord has always been cautious and conscientious. Occasionally, when you want to relax, this subordinate will turn a blind eye to it. This subordinate has made a mistake. Please punish me, city lord. Feng Yenyang couldn't do anything after hearing Feng Bo's words. He could only sigh and say, I knew from a young age that Mian Air was not a great talent, so I let him cultivate his character. In the future he would become a good city lord with the help of virtuous officials like you. I didn't expect this. Sigh, this can't be blamed on others. He can only blame himself for not being resolute enough and letting down my efforts. At this point, Feng Yenyang suddenly remembered something and quickly asked, Where is the warrior who urged the young city lord to go to the brothel? I don't know where he is anymore. The Count of Wind said. Actually, the Count of Wind had already investigated this matter the moment he arrived here. Naturally, he had also investigated the warriors who had accompanied Wind Crown into the brothel. 4 of the 5 warriors had been killed on the spot, and the missing one had been identified by Wind Crown's personal bodyguard as the one who had instigated Wind Crown. This personal warrior of the Wind Crown was sent by Feng Yanjin to supervise the Wind Crown. This time he was ordered by the Wind Crown to do something else, which was why he was able to escape. City Lord, don't be too angry at the young City Lord, Feng Bo consoled. This was clearly a ploy by the Thunderbolt family. It's understandable that the young City Lord would fall into their trap at such a young age. In terms of age, Yicheng is 3 years younger than Mian Air, but he's mature and reliable. If only Mian Air were half as capable as Yicheng, I'd be satisfied. City Lord, you flatter me. I'm still lacking in many areas. Feng Yicheng hurriedly bowed. City Lord, Feng Bo began. Count Feng said, the most important thing right now is how to save the young City Lord. Under the pressure of public opinion, the Thunderbolt clan wouldn't dare to kill the young City Lord, so we can find an opportunity to enter Thunderbolt City and think of a way to save the young city lord. The Thunderbolt family will surely keep a close eye on me on air. I'm afraid it won't be easy to rescue him, Feng Yangyang said with a worried expression. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo glanced at each other and reached an agreement. Yun Ruoyan stepped forward. City Lord Feng, if you can trust us, please leave the task of rescuing the young city lord to us. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo came from the city lord's manor, and they're very familiar with the city as well as the entirety of Thunderbolt City. They're the most suitable candidates for this task, Feng Bo added. Feng Yangyang's gaze landed on Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, and the worry on his face faded into anticipation. That's good. I'll leave this matter to the two of you. Feng Yangyang had personally witnessed Li Mo's expedition to Thunderbolt City to rescue Yun Ruoyan and Zhui Feng, and he naturally knew that they'd barely made it out alive. He hadn't expected that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo would still be willing to risk their lives for the Feng family, and he was quite touched. Since the decision had been made, Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo prepared to set off the next day. After dinner, Lin Qingshan called Yun Ruoyan over for a chat. This time Lin Qingshan had volunteered to come to the front lines, while Lin Qingxue had stayed behind to take care of Lin Tianming. Because Lin Qingshan's medical skills were exceptional, Feng Bo had agreed to let her tag along. In fact, Lin Qingshan's mission this time was to retrieve the spatial ring that had been passed down from her ancestors. When she learned that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were planning to enter the city lord's manor, she wanted Yun Ruoyan to help her keep an eye out for the ring's whereabouts, to see if it was indeed in Thunderbolt Bashan's hands. However, she felt that this matter was too dangerous, and she was afraid that it would delay the mission of rescuing the young city lord. As a result, she didn't bring it up in public and instead sought out Yun Ruoyan in private. Yun Ruoyan naturally understood the importance of this matter to Lin Qingshan, and she agreed without hesitation. Thank you, Sister Ruoyan, Lin Qingshan thanked her gratefully. You don't have to be so polite to us sisters. Yun Ruoyan patted her shoulder lightly and whispered, I haven't thanked you for helping me talk to Qingxue. Ever since you've done that, she hasn't been as awkward with me as before. I'm sure that when we get back we'll be as good sisters as we used to be. Lin Qingshan looked at Yun Ruoyan with a hesitant expression. Yun Ruoyan couldn't bear to see her like this. Qingshan, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't play riddles with me. When I was still in the Yun household, playing riddles and playing mind games was a very tiring task. Unless it was absolutely necessary, who would bother trying to guess at someone else's thoughts? Lin Qingshan looked at Yun Ruoyan's coquettish expression and couldn't help feeling a little dazed. As far as she could remember, Yun Ruoyan had dealt with every single member of the Yun family, from the Yun matriarch to Yun Lan's wife and concubine, all the way down to the servants. Those who needed to be coaxed, those who needed to be fought, and those who needed to be roped in. In short, there wasn't a single person she couldn't handle. She was truly a woman whose thoughts were deeper than the sea. At that time, Yun Ruoyan had the shrewdness of a 30-something, and she had become Lin Qingshan's most revered idol. But ever since Yun Ruoyan married Li Mo, it seemed that she had slowly begun to change. It was as if she had regressed, becoming more and more like a spoiled little girl, more and more impulsive, and the more reckless she became. Fortunately, no matter how much trouble Yun Ruoyan caused, Li Mo would always be able to resolve it for her. Lin Qingshan thought that perhaps this was the reason why her sister was becoming more and more daring and impulsive. Chapter 418. Lin Qingshan couldn't help but think about whether she should find a man or not as she looked at her older sister, who seemed to be going back to normal with each passing day. Because of Zhui Feng, Lin Qingshue's chubby face had become thinner and thinner, and she had almost become estranged from her dearest sister, Yun Ruoyan. On the other hand, Yun Ruoyan was married to the Slaughtering King, and they lived happily ever after. However, in Lin Qingshan's eyes, she had clearly regressed in both intelligence and style. It was often said that a woman would be foolish for 3 years after giving birth to a child. Yun Ruoyan was about to reach the age where she could have children, and Lin Qingshan could already see the image of Yun Ruoyan chasing after a child without a care for her image. As soon as she thought of this, Lin Qingshan felt a wave of discomfort wash over her. She made up her mind that even if she had to remain unmarried for the rest of her life, she wouldn't allow a man to change her. Qingshan, what's the matter? What are you thinking about? Seeing that Lin Qingshan was in a daze, Yun Ruoyan nudged her lightly, bringing her back to her senses. "Ah, I'm not thinking about anything," Lin Qingchen hurriedly replied. "You're not thinking about old Lin, are you?" Yun Ruoyan suddenly exclaimed. Old Lin was the leader of the warriors, and he had once served as a guard for a short period of time. Once when he had been injured, it was Yun Ruoyan who had treated him. "Sister Ruoyan, if you keep spouting nonsense, I'm going to ignore you," Lin Qingchen said anxiously before turning around and walking back to her own quarters. "Good sister, it's nothing. If you've taken a liking to that good Erlang, I'll let you decide where he is." Yun Ruoyan smiled from behind, her words stabbing into Lin Qingchen's back like a needle. She immediately quickened her pace and disappeared, leaving Yun Ruoyan laughing alone. "Ah, it's quite interesting to tease a girl when I'm free," Yun Ruoyan muttered to herself as she walked back to her own quarters. She had told Lin Qingchen that Li Mo would return first. If she didn't return for a long time, Li Mo would surely be anxious and come looking for her. As a result, her footsteps became lighter. On a small path, a figure suddenly appeared from the shadows, giving Yun Ruoyan a fright. "Who is it?" Yun Ruoyan called out. "It's me, Ruoyan," the man replied. Yun Ruoyan immediately recognized the voice as Zhou Yifeng's. "Why did you drink so much?" Yun Ruoyan frowned as she subconsciously covered her nose and mouth with her hand. Zhou Yifeng reeked of alcohol and his voice was laced with guilt. Yun Ruoyan was a little angry. "Zhou Yifeng, don't you know that Governor Feng has always been very strict with his soldiers? All warriors on the battlefield are not allowed to touch alcohol. If you're discovered, not only will you be expelled from the squad, you'll also be punished by military law." "I know," Zhou Yifeng replied vaguely. "Since you knew, why did you do it?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "Hurry back and sober up with cold water. I don't want you to find out." "Ruoyan, are you concerned about me?" Zhou Yifeng suddenly laughed and said. "He said you care about me, you're worried that I'll be kicked out of the samurai squad, so you really do care about me, right?" "Who's he?" Yun Ruoyan frowned. "You're drunk, so I don't understand what you're saying." Yun Ruoyan tried to walk around Zhou Yifeng, but Zhou Yifeng's tall body blocked her path. If Yun Ruoyan moved to the left, he would move to the left, and if she moved to the right, he would move to the right. It was as though he were a shameless bastard. This had never happened to Zhou Yifeng before, and Yun Ruoyan was very surprised. If it had been anyone else, they would have long since been beaten to the ground by Yun Ruoyan. But for Zhou Yifeng, Yun Ruoyan still felt a deep sense of camaraderie. "Zhou Yifeng, get out of my way. I don't want to fight with you." Yun Ruoyan's patience was running out. Zhou Yifeng didn't seem to hear what Yun Ruoyan said at all. He looked down at Yun Ruoyan with a pair of eyes that were as bright as the stars in the sky, then pointed to his head. "He told me to confess to you, but I didn't dare. He kept egging me on from day to night, from night to day. When I couldn't stand it anymore, I could only drink. When I was drunk, I couldn't hear his voice." "Who is he?" Yun Ruoyan asked again. Zhou Yifeng laughed. "He's me, another me, a more real me. He told me to tell you." Zhou Yifeng's eyes suddenly became brighter, and his tall body approached Yun Ruoyan step by step. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but step back. "He told me to tell you," Zhou Yifeng continued. "Yun Ruoyan, I like you and I want to have you." Yun Ruoyan's eyes widened. Although she'd known that Zhou Yifeng liked her, she hadn't expected him to suddenly confess to her at a time like this. Yun Ruoyan was truly shocked. She was a married man, and Zhou Yifeng's actions would be reviled on both the Qingyuan continent and the Abyssal continent. "You." Just as Yun Ruoyan was about to yell at him, Zhou Yifeng suddenly reached out and grabbed her tightly. Then his lips, which reeked of alcohol, accurately pressed against her lips. Yun Ruoyan was truly stunned by Zhou Yifeng's sudden series of offensive actions. In her mind, Zhou Yifeng was a man who used his life to be inflexible and inflexible. Otherwise, he wouldn't have liked her for so long without letting her know, and he wouldn't have been so indifferent to Lin Qingxue. But tonight, at this very moment, he had actually dared to do such a thing to her. Yun Ruoyan finally reacted and began to struggle with all her might. In her rage, she had forgotten to take out her qi tong to chop off Zhou Yifeng's head, nor had she forgotten to condense a fireball to burn Zhou Yifeng to a crisp. All she did was subconsciously kick at Zhou Yifeng, but Zhou Yifeng didn't seem to care at all. In fact, he seemed to be enjoying it. Yun Ruoyon's taste was so torturous that he couldn't free himself from it. At this moment, a black figure floated over, followed by a gust of wind. The gust of wind carried with it a violent force that sent Zhou Yifeng flying. With a loud bang, he fell heavily onto the stone pavement. Mo Yun Ruoyon's breathing was a little ragged from Zhou Yifeng's kiss. Because of the intense struggle, her hair was a little messy and her lips were a little swollen. Zhou Yifeng's fingers had left clear marks on her fair, supple face. When Mo saw Yun Ruoyon in such a state, a green light flashed in his eyes. Yun Ruoyon grabbed Zhou Yifeng and shook her head without saying a word. Yun Ruoyon knew that Mo's eyes would only flash green when his emotions were particularly intense, or when his killing intent was particularly strong. That green light just now was a clear indication that he wanted to kill Zhou Yifeng. Mo suppressed the rage in his heart, as well as the indescribable feeling that his most delicious candy had been stolen by someone else. He finally closed his eyes, suppressed his anger and pulled Yun Ruoyon's hand toward Zhou Yifeng. He raised his palm above Mo's head and a large ball of water appeared. As Mo clenched his fist, the ball of water exploded and cold water splashed onto Zhou Yifeng's head, face and body. Zhou Yifeng screamed at the shock of the ice-cold water. He sat up from the ground and wiped the icy water off his face. Only then did he wake up. "What's wrong with me? Why am I here?" He murmured as if he didn't know what had just happened. "Zhou Yifeng." Mo's cold voice rang out from above his head. "If not for the fact that you're a beastkin, I wouldn't have splashed you with cold water, but with Immerse and my anger. If this happens again, I can't guarantee that I won't tear you to shreds." Zhou Yifeng raised his head to look at Mo. Under the shadow of his long hair, Zhou Yifeng couldn't see his expression, but from his tone, Zhou Yifeng could sense his anger. Zhou Yifeng then turned his gaze to Yun Ruoyon. Yun Ruoyon didn't avoid his gaze. Her large eyes met his, still filled with disbelief, confusion and most of all disappointment. Zhou Yifeng's mind went blank and everything that had just happened began to surface in his mind. Those drunken words, those heartfelt words, those actions that he had taken against Yun Ruoyon, and that he had kissed Yun Ruoyon forcefully. That warm sensation still lingered on Zhou Yifeng's lips, and he couldn't help but blush, his heart racing and his mind buzzing. What did I just do?" Zhou Yifeng pulled at his hair. Mo Yun Ruoyon saw that Zhou Yifeng had woken up, but she didn't want to see his pained and regretful expression. She tugged on Mo's sleeve. "Let's go back." Mo turned back to look at Yun Ruoyon warmly, nodded at her, then pulled her along as they walked around Zhou Yifeng. Zhou Yifeng sat on the ground, the image of Yun Ruoyon's disappointed expression etched into his mind. Zhou Yifeng jumped up from the ground and chased after Yun Ruoyon, wanting to apologize. Mo, however, didn't give him a chance to speak. With a wave of his sleeves he sent Zhou Yifeng flying once more. Zhou Yifeng lay on the ground, staring at Yun Ruoyon's back. He smiled bitterly at the devil spirit in his mind. "Are you satisfied now? Are you satisfied now?" Chapter 419. On the bed, Mo gently hugged Yun Ruoyon, his fingers involuntarily caressing her face, her hair, her lips, and especially her lips, as if he were trying to erase Zhou Yifeng's imprint on them. "Mo, you're hurting me," Yun Ruoyon whispered as she grabbed Mo's hand. As soon as she finished speaking, Mo flipped her over and covered her body with his lips pressing tightly against hers. The image of Zhou Yifeng kissing Yun Ruoyon floated uncontrollably in Mo's mind, and his heart ached more and more. His kisses became harder and more forceful, more and more domineering, more and more unbearable for Yun Ruoyon, and more resistant she felt. Yun Ruoyon reached out to push Mo away, but both her hands were pinned above her head by Mo. She tried to kick Mo with her legs, only to be pinned down by him as well. Mo was still invading her uncontrollably, in a way that she hated the most. She hadn't felt this way in a long time. Yun Ruoyon had thought that she would never feel this way again, but at this moment she once again felt that sense of helplessness. Zhou Yifeng's treatment of Yun Ruoyon left her disappointed, but Mo's treatment of her left Yun Ruoyon deeply hurt and pained. Tears finally flowed uncontrollably from Yun Ruoyon's eyes, flowing down her cheeks and into her lips. No, into their entwined lips. Yun Ruoyon tasted her tears and Mo tasted them as well. Li Mo abruptly came to his senses and he immediately stopped what he was doing. He raised his head to look at Yunruo's tear-stained face, and his heart ached as if it had been pierced by a needle. Beneath him was his wife, the woman he loved the most. How could he hurt her so violently? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Did I hurt you? Li Mo began to carefully wipe away Yunruo's tears, but Yunruo simply closed her eyes and ignored him. However, tears continued to flow from her eyes. Can you stop crying? Li Mo didn't know what to do. I've said before that your tears are my greatest punishment. I really know I was wrong. Why don't you slap me a couple of times to appease your anger? Li Mo grabbed Yunruo's hands and slapped them against his own face. Yunruo only heard 2 crisp smacks before she struggled out of Li Mo's grasp. Afraid that he would hurt her again, Li Mo didn't dare to force himself on her, and could only swear to the heavens. I was really blinded by jealousy just now. When I saw how Zhou Yifeng treated you, I really wanted to go crazy, but I had no choice but to suppress my anger. I didn't manage my emotions well enough, which is why I vented my anger on you. I'm truly in the wrong. I swear that if I ever hurt my wife like that again, I'll have my heart pierced by 1,000 swords. A warm hand covered Li Mo's mouth. Li Mo grabbed Yunruo's hand and kissed her palm deeply. You've forgiven me, haven't you? I've said all the good things I've said to you over the past 2 years. Yunruo forcefully pulled her hand out of Li Mo's grasp. You've already done what you shouldn't have. What's the point of swearing now? What do you want me to do? As long as you say it, I'll definitely do it. Alright, you said it? Yunruo finally looked up at Li Mo, seeing that she was beginning to soften. Li Mo hurriedly said, Yes, I said it. As long as it's a request, I'll definitely do it. I want you to not touch me for a year. Yunruo stared into Li Mo's eyes. Li Mo paused. Clearly, he hadn't expected Yunruo to make such a request. He couldn't help but frown. For the first time in his life, an expression of bitterness and helplessness appeared on his face. Then what about our dual cultivation technique? We've already reached the 3rd stage, and if we work a little harder, we'll be able to reach the 4th stage. Stop. Yunruo responded with a single word. Don't you want to be my husband? Li Mo's words were directed at Yunruo's ear, and the warm wind blew against her earlobe, causing her to shiver. After being husband and wife for more than a year, Li Mo had a deep understanding of Yunruo's body, and her earlobe was her most sensitive spot. Seeing that Yunruo seemed to have been aroused by his teasing, Li Mo once again pressed his body against hers to steady her. This time, his kiss was as gentle as a feather brushing against her lips, bringing with it an electric current. Li Mo was very satisfied with Yunruo's reaction, and he continued. At the most crucial step, Yunruo grabbed his hand and stopped him. What's the matter, Li Mo panted. Yunruo didn't answer his question. Instead, she pulled his hand up and placed it on her abdomen. Li Mo didn't react in time. Instead, he stared at Yunruo in a daze. Are you feeling unwell? Does your stomach hurt? Do you want me to transfer some spiritual energy to you? As he spoke, he began to infuse spiritual energy into Li Mo's abdomen. Li Mo, Yunruo finally called out, I don't have a stomach ache and I'm not feeling unwell. Li Mo looked at Yunruo, waiting for her to continue. I haven't come to the Kuei bath in 2 months, Yunruo murmured. What did you say, Yen? You haven't come to the Kuei bath in 2 months? Even though Li Mo didn't know much about women's affairs, Yunruo's words made sense to him. Yen, do you mean to say that you're pregnant with our child? Li Mo stared at Yunruo's abdomen with a burning gaze, his palm pressed against it. A blue light flashed in Li Mo's eyes and he began to smile. That smile grew wider and wider, and gradually his laughter grew louder and louder. It was rare for Li Mo to laugh out loud, and even more so for him to raise his head to the sky and roar with joy. Startled, Yunruo sat up and covered Li Mo's mouth with her hand. Don't scare the people around you. Yen, we're going to have a child. I'm going to have an heir. Li Mo suppressed his excitement and laughed. Not necessarily. Afraid that Li Mo would go crazy again, Yunruo hurriedly explained, It's just that I haven't come to the Kuei bath in 2 months. The maids at home have taught me that a woman's period of time is considered to be less than 2 months, so I suspect that I'm pregnant. However, I've been so busy recently that I haven't had the time to have someone take a look at me. I understand, and the maids at home have taught me as well. As Li Mo spoke, he chastised himself for his carelessness. How could he not have noticed that Yun Ruoyan hadn't come to the Kuei bath in 2 months? Thinking back to how Yun Ruoyan had been traveling with him, and how she had even experienced a huge battle just a day ago, he wondered if she had frightened the child in her abdomen. No, Li Mo replied. Tomorrow I'll have the Count of the Wind take a look at you. And Lin Qingqian is a woman, and women understand women better than women. Also, you can't come with me to Thunderbolt City tomorrow. I can't let you take such a risk. Li Mo Yun Ruoyan's expression changed once more. What did you just say? Do you remember? What did I say? You said that you'd listen to everything I said. That's right. Except for the child. Li Mo hurriedly corrected himself. Li Mo seeing that Li Mo was determined, Yun Ruoyan continued slowly. I didn't go see a doctor because I didn't want to alarm you. I was planning on having the Count of the Wind and Qingqian look at me only after I'm back from this trip. How can you do that? Li Mo immediately retorted. Li Mo, I've already made up my mind. Yun Ruoyan was even more certain of her decision. I've told you before that no one can force me to do anything, and no one can force me not to do anything. Not my enemies, not my lovers. In this life I'll only listen to myself. In the end, Li Mo couldn't argue with Yun Ruoyan any further. He could only suppress his heartache and conceal the news. The next day he set off for Thunderbolt City with Yun Ruoyan. On the journey, Li Mo's care and concern for Yun Ruoyan multiplied several times over. His eyes never left Yun Ruoyan's body, and his hands were constantly clutching her hand, giving Yun Ruoyan the illusion that the two of them were conjoined twins. This feeling made Yun Ruoyan feel both exasperated and sweet. After a day and 2 nights of travel, the two of them finally arrived at the city lord's manor. Originally, they were supposed to enter the manor that very night, but Li Mo insisted on staying with Yun Ruoyan at an inn in the city center, preparing to enter the manor the next night. The next day, after a night's rest, Yun Ruoyan suddenly learned of a heart-wrenching incident from the inn's waiter. As the waiter served tea to Yun Ruoyan and Yun Ruoyan's room, he vividly described how the female geishas who had been captured by the city lord's manor had been hung on the city's walls. Every day one of them was hung at the city gates, and this was already the 15th. In the beginning they were still breathing, but in the end they either starved to death or couldn't bear the pain and bit their tongues to commit suicide. The waiter said that when he went to check on them the previous day, only 2 of them were still able to open their eyes. Chapter 420. With a loud crash, the teacup in Yun Ruoyan's hand fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Madam, are you all right? The waiter was startled and hurriedly asked Yun Ruoyan, whose eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Li Mo. I'm fine. Li Mo walked to Yun Ruoyan's side and held her hand in his. Why didn't we see them when we entered the city? The waiter replied, those girls were sent from Wind City, so they were hung at the eastern gate facing Wind City. The 2 of you probably entered from another gate, so you didn't see them. Li Mo took out a spirit crystal from his pocket and tipped the waiter, who happily left the restaurant. You have to stay calm. Li Mo rubbed Yun Ruoyan's hands as he spoke. Yun Ruoyan's hands turned cold the moment she heard the news, and so did her entire body. Yun Ruoyan tightly closed her eyes, and the faces of the girls in the dance troupe appeared in her mind one by one. There was Hoodlum, who had the temperament of a boy and the cultivation of a cultivator. There was also Auntie Hong, who had been through many hardships but was exceptionally strong, and there was also Xiaoqing, who had always treated her as a younger sister. Yun Ruoyan took a deep breath. When she opened her eyes again, her gaze was resolute. I want to see them. All right, let's go tonight. Li Mo continued to warm Yun Ruoyan's hands as he spoke. At night, the night was dark and everything was quiet. 15 women were hanging on the gate of the eastern city. Their once plump and beautiful bodies were now as withered as a leaf in the wind, swaying back and forth in the chilly breeze. When they were first hung up, they were quite pretty, but they grew uglier and uglier by the day, 2 warriors on night watch said as they drank wine to warm their bodies. Did the young governor say when he was going to release them? It's quite creepy to look at them like this, one of the warriors said. What are you afraid of, coward? The other warrior laughed disdainfully. She was a slut when she was alive and she's still a slut when she's dead. What's there to be afraid of? No matter what, he's still a human. The warrior from earlier added, let's not talk about ghosts first. It's already spring. When the weather warms up, won't these corpses stink? At that time, how can they keep watch at night? The stench will die. Isn't it not smelly yet? Another warrior gulped down a large mouthful of wine, and then his whole body quivered. He stood up with a smile on his face and said, today I heard a woman speak. She kept saying that she was thirsty. I'm going to feed that smelly woman some good water. The warrior said as he untied the belt of his warrior uniform. But before he could take a step forward, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him like a ghost. As soon as he reacted, his mind went into a daze. Yun Ruian had thrown a handful of bewitching powder at him, and the warrior behind him had already fallen asleep under the effects of the powder. Go to one side and drink all of your own good water, Yun Ruian ordered the dumbstruck warrior. Yes, master. The warrior replied mechanically, then walked to the side according to Yun Ruian's orders, unbuttoned his pants and began to drink by himself. Yun Ruian was about to use her scarlet eye to decapitate the two warriors, but she was stopped by Li Mo. Yun Ruian's sword rose to the top of the city walls, and she looked at the familiar faces one by one. Although they were beyond recognition and had no signs of life, Yun Ruian could still call out their names one by one. The one who could sing was Sister Ling Hua, Sister Qing Luo could play the zither, and Sister Yao Hua could play the flute. Xiao Yun Ruian finally saw Sister Qing Qing. Qing Qing was so thin that only her bones were left, and she still seemed to have her usual playful smile on her face. Sister Qing Qing. Yun Ruian finally couldn't hold back her tears any longer. Little white rabbit, you're finally here. Suddenly, Qing Qing opened her mouth. Sister Qing Qing, it's great that you're still alive. Yun Ruian cried tears of joy as she hurriedly untied Qing Qing from the top of the city walls. She was about to take her away when Qing Qing stopped her. Qing Qing told Yun Ruian to put her down, saying that she had something very important to tell her. Yun Ruian had no choice but to carry Qing Qing to the top of the city walls. Yun Ruian held Qing Qing in her arms as Li Mo took off his black cloak and covered Qing Qing's naked body. Sister Qing Qing, what's so important about this? Can we talk about it when we get back? Qing Qing shook her head weakly. It's too late. I've been hanging on to my last breath, hoping to see you again. The heavens have eyes and you finally arrived. Sister Qing Qing, what do you have to tell me? Yun Ruian realized that the matter Qing Qing was talking about had to be extremely important. Qing Qing's breathing suddenly quickened, and Li Mo hurriedly squatted down and infused her with some spiritual energy. Only then did Qing Qing calm down a little. Hurry, hurry and save Auntie Hong and Ah Fei. With her last breath, Qing Qing told Yun Ruian the location of the dungeon where Auntie Hong and Ah Fei were locked up. Li Mo immediately knew where they were. I know where you're talking about. We'll definitely save Auntie Hong. Only then did Qing Qing smile as if relieved of a burden. Little bunny. Ah, Sister Qing Qing, I'm here. Yun Ruian tightly hugged Qing Qing's bony body. I'm thirsty and I want to drink. All right, Yun Ruian nodded. Li Mo took out a flask of wine, opened the lid and handed it to Yun Ruian. Yun Ruian fed Qing Qing mouthful by mouthful, but Qing Qing had already lost the ability to swallow, and the wine flowed out of her mouth. Sister Qing Qing. Yun Ruian couldn't hold back her tears any longer. Little bunny, don't cry, this is good wine, fragrant and spicy, Qing Qing said. It tastes just like the wine my mother brewed for my father when I was young. Don't be sad, bunny, I can finally see my mother and father again. Little Qing finally breathed its last breath in Yun Ruian's arms. At the same time, the sky was beginning to brighten. The two of them could only go to the governor's manor the next night. This time, not only did they have to rescue Feng Mian, but they also had to rescue Auntie Hong and Ah Fei. Yun Ruian personally hung Qing Qing from the city gates once more. Sister Qing Qing, Sister Qing Luo, Sister Ling Hua, Sister Dan Hua. Yun Ruian walked past her 15 sisters one by one, her tone resolute. I'll definitely avenge all of you and let you rest in peace. Wait for me. By the time the sun had risen, Yun Ruian and Li Mo had already returned to the inn. The two warriors who had been keeping watch woke up, completely unaware of when they had fallen asleep last night. Pa pa pa. The warrior who had drunk his best wine spat on the ground, then turned to the other warrior. Was that yellow wine you drank last night? Was that yellow dog piss? Why does my mouth smell like piss after just a few sips? You're the one who drank yellow dog piss. That's top-grade yellow wine and it cost me 2 spirit stones. Why don't you have another sip? No, stay away from me. The 2 warriors went down the city gates, one after another, leaving behind only the 15 souls waiting for Yun Ruoyan to avenge them. Night fell quickly and Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo managed to sneak into the governor's manor. It was as heavily guarded as ever, if not more so than it had always been. But to Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, these were mere decorations. The 2 of them first went to the dungeon that Qing Qing had mentioned, successfully bewitching the guards within, and then unlocking the door with a key. When Yun Ruoyan saw that Hoodlum and Auntie Hong were both unharmed, the weight in her heart finally fell to the ground. Before they set off, Feng Yicheng had specifically sought out Yun Ruoyan, hoping that she could rescue Auntie Hong if possible. Although Feng Yicheng's words were tactful, it was clear from his gaze that he had high hopes for Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo. Yun Ruoyan could also see that he was deeply in love with Auntie Hong. Thank the heavens, Auntie Hong. Hoodlum, you're both fine. How did you find this place? Both Auntie Hong and Hoodlum asked at the same time. Yun Ruoyan's expression was sorrowful. Sister Qing Qing told me. Qing Qing, where is she? Did you save her? And the other sisters, where are they now? Auntie Hong asked agitatedly. They're all gone, Yun Ruoyan replied bitterly. It was Lei Batian who killed them. I won't let him get away with it. When Auntie Hong heard these words, her entire body went limp and her eyes lost their luster. Auntie Hong will take you out of here right now. Yun Ruoyan tried to pull her up, but found that she wouldn't cooperate at all. I'm not going out, Auntie Hong muttered. I want to stay with my sisters. What nonsense are you spouting? Yun Ruoyan was so anxious that her eyes were red. Sister Qing Qing left her last breath so that I could save you, but you're not coming with me? Ruoyan, listen to me, Auntie Hong said. I'm still useful and they won't do anything to me. I can't let my sisters die in vain, and I have to expose the Lei family's crimes to the world, so I have to stay here. Ruoyan, take Hoodlum with you. Miss, if you're not going, I'm not going either, Hoodlum muttered, her silent tears streaming down her face. Hoodlum, listen to me. I have a mission for you, Auntie Hong said. Auntie Hong said, only you and I in the entire dance troupe know the origins of all the sisters, their original names and their ancestral tombs. I want you to wait until the Pai clan is annihilated in the future and bury all the sisters' bones in their respective ancestral tombs. This was their wish when they were alive. However, there are many of them whose ancestral graves have not been preserved. You can bury them with me so that they can accompany me. Chapter 421. Miss, I beg of you, please come with us. Hoodlum knelt in front of Auntie Hong and begged her. Hoodlum. Auntie Hong gently stroked Hoodlum's hair. If you still recognize me as your mistress, then be obedient and help me complete the task I've entrusted you with. That way we won't be sisters in vain. Auntie Hong, Yun Ruoyan said anxiously, don't you want to see Feng Yicheng again? Yun Ruoyan remembered that day when Feng Yicheng had sent Auntie Hong off. He had said that the 2 of them had reached the stage of marriage. Yun Ruoyan hoped that Auntie Hong would take care of herself for the sake of their relationship. I once swore in front of my sisters that I would live and die with them. If I abandoned them, I would never be able to live in peace. Auntie Hong smiled bitterly. In the end, Feng Yicheng and I weren't fated to be together. All right, since you've already made up your mind, we won't force you. Yun Ruoyan sighed, then waved her hand and sent a colorless and odorless bewitching powder at Auntie Hong. However, Auntie Hong and Hoodlum had long since developed their own defenses against bewitching drugs. She only covered her mouth and nose. Hurry up and save the young city lord. Don't waste any more time here. Seeing that Auntie Hong had made up her mind, Hoodlum could only tearfully bid her farewell and leave the cell with Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo learned from Hoodlum that Thunderbolt Batian had brought Wind Crown out of the cell, but they didn't know where he was. As soon as the 3 of them left the prison, they began searching the Thunder Manor. However, it wasn't easy to find a single person in such a large manor. Yun Ruoyan used a bewitching powder on 4 of the patrolling warriors, but none of them were able to find the wind crown. As the sky brightened, the 3 of them left the manor and returned to the inn. When they returned to the inn, they received a letter from Immortal. The letter was written by Feng Yenyang himself, and it inquired about their progress in rescuing Wind Crown. He also informed them that the 2 cities were on the brink of war, and that it would erupt at any moment. Liemo wrote a letter back. He told the Feng family that he had entered the Thunderbolt Manor that night and hadn't been able to find Feng Mian. Then he followed Auntie Hong's suggestion and had the Feng family spread the news that the performance team had been killed. According to Auntie Hong, the geisha captain was active in the Thunder family, Wu family and Chen family. She had deep connections with many of the smaller families in these 3 families. Their tragic ending showed the cruel nature of the Thunder clan. This would definitely cause many small clans to be dissatisfied with the Thunder clan. Once the war began, the strength of these small families would not be underestimated. If they could change sides at the last moment, it would definitely affect the situation of the entire war. According to Hoodlum, after she and Auntie Hong were locked up in a cell, besides the daily meals that were delivered to them, very few people asked about them. In addition to Auntie Hong's disguise, no one would discover that she had disappeared for a short period of time. Moreover, the 2 of them were sure that Wind Crown was absolutely useful to the Thunderbolt clan. Before the battle officially started, his life would not be in danger. Therefore, the 2 of them were not in a hurry to enter the Thunderbolt residence. 2 days later, Murphy brought another letter from Feng Yenyang. Feng Yenyang's letter stated that he had already spread the news of the geisha captain's tragic death, and that many of the smaller families had contacted the Fengs in private, expressing their willingness to change sides during the war. In addition, Feng Yenyang decided that regardless of whether Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were able to rescue Wind Crown, he would launch an attack on the Thunderbolt family in 5 days. News of the battle between the Thunderbolt and Feng families had also spread, and news of the Lai family's alliance with the Fengs had also been made public. With the Lai family's addition, the Feng family's strength increased exponentially. Some of the citizens of Thunderbolt who had been confident in Thunderbolt's victory began to worry, but most of them were still very confident. In the evening, Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo hid in a tea house near the city lord's manor, waiting for nightfall before entering the manor again to search for Wind Crown. So what if the Lai and Feng families form an alliance? The Thunderbolt is the dominant family for a long time, and they're definitely not a force that the Feng can contend with. Last year, the Thunderbolt took over 5 of the Feng's smaller cities. That's hard to say. These past few years, the Feng family's momentum has been too strong, and now that they've gained the support of the Lai family, their strength can't be underestimated. Otherwise, why would our city lord kidnap the young lord of the Feng family and use him as a hostage? He must be feeling guilty and afraid of losing on the battlefield. I've heard of this as well. The head of the Feng family is furious, saying that he wants justice from the Thunderbolt family. That's why he's ignoring the truce agreement and gathering a large number of warriors at the border of the city, ready to attack Thunderbolt at any moment. Just as the 2 of them were listening to the chatter of the people in the tea house, a carriage stopped in front of the tea house. Li Mo's brows furrowed. He leaned close to Yun Ruoyan and said, "There's a familiar aura in the carriage. Let's retreat." Then he pulled Yun Ruoyan into the rear hall. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the tea house and 3 people alighted, 2 men and 1 woman. The man in the lead was a well-known figure in Thunderbolt City, the young lord of Thunderbolt City, Pai Batian. As soon as Pai Batian and his entourage entered the tea house, they immediately attracted everyone's attention. The noisy hall instantly turned silent. Behind Pai Batian was a young man dressed in an embroidered robe, and by his side was a veiled woman. The tea house proprietor received a servant's report and hurried out of the rear hall to greet Pai Batian. "Welcome, young lord. My humble tea house is truly grand. I'd like a top-notch booth. I'm here to entertain a friend." Before the proprietor could finish his phoning, Pai Batian had gone straight to the 2nd floor of the tea house, and the proprietor hurried to serve him. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were able to see everything that had transpired from a corner of the back hall. The youth behind Thunderbolt Batian was none other than the young lord of the Feng family, Feng Yenyang, whom the 2 of them had searched so hard for. As for the veiled woman by Feng Yenyang's side, Yun Ruoyan would be able to recognize her as Rong Yueshan even if she were reduced to ashes. When the two of them saw that the wind crown was unscathed, they relaxed a little. At the same time, however, they were puzzled. Why would Pai Batian bring the wind crown around Thunderbolt City, and even to a place as chaotic as this tea house? Was there some sort of conspiracy behind all this? Why have the two of you come to the rear hall? The front hall is where guests are entertained, and the rear hall is off-limits to unauthorized visitors. Please proceed to the front hall. The tea house proprietor came out of the booth after greeting Pai Batian. When he went downstairs and entered the rear hall, he saw Yun Ruoyan and Liemo hiding there. Boss, my wife isn't feeling well and she's looking for a restroom. I don't know where to find one, Liemo replied. The tea house proprietor had a waiter bring the two of them to the restroom in the rear hall. My wife isn't feeling well and she'd like to find a quiet room to rest in. Would you be so kind as to accommodate her? Liemo took out a handful of spirit crystals and handed them to the waiter. The waiter hesitated for a moment, but in the end he didn't succumb to the temptation. He took the spirit crystals from Liemo's hands and led the two of them upstairs. There were only 2 booths upstairs and one of them was for Pai Batian's trio. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo were led into the other booth by the waiter. The waiter reminded the two of them not to disturb the other guests before leaving. The 2 booths were only separated by a single wall. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo infused their ears with spiritual energy to eavesdrop on the conversation in the other booth. I've invited Brother Feng to Thunderbolt City for quite a few days now, but I haven't had the time to entertain you. Did you enjoy your stroll today? Pai Batian's voice rang out from the other booth. Young Lord Pai, you're too polite, the Wind Crown replied coldly. Compared to the prison, the outside world is naturally much better. Indeed, I had no choice but to lock you up in the prison, Brother Feng. Thunderbolt Batian smiled. If you agree to persuade your father to kidnap Yun Ruoyan and Liemo, there's still room for discussion. I've already said that with my father's personality that's impossible, the Wind Crown continued. Wind Crown continued, plus, I'm not someone who's afraid of death. You don't have to beat around the bush and do these useless things. The sound of a wine glass shattering could be heard from the next booth, followed by Pai Batian's angry voice. Wind Crown, don't be so ungrateful. I released you from the prison to give you a chance. This is your only chance. If you don't grasp it, I will tie you up and bring you to the border city tomorrow. I will hang you on the city gate tower. I want to see if Feng Yenyang will step over your dead body to attack the city. Feng Mian was infuriated. After a moment of silence, the Wind Crown's voice rang out once more. Don't even think about scaring me. The Feng family isn't easily frightened. Is that so? Pai Batian's sinister voice rang out. Brother Feng, it looks like you're going to do this the hard way. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Ruoyan and Liemo heard the sounds of fighting from the next booth, followed by Wind Crown's screams. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo frowned at the same time. They glanced at each other, but neither of them made a move. The situation was so sudden that, in order to prevent any trickery, neither Yun Ruoyan nor Liemo dared to act rashly. Instead, they chose to wait and see. The sounds of fighting continued from the next booth, and it was clear that Wind Crown was no match for Pai Batian. On the other hand, Pai Batian had clearly dealt a heavy blow, and Wind Crown's screams of pain rang out incessantly. But no matter how much Pai Batian threatened or tempted him, Wind Crown didn't change his stance. This was something that both Yun Ruoyan and Liemo admired. Although the two of them weren't very familiar with Wind Crown, they had some understanding of him and knew that he wasn't a particularly capable person. However, under Feng Yenyang's tutelage he was rather well behaved. Surprisingly, his unyielding character didn't embarrass Feng Yenyang. Young Lord, Rong Yueshan called out. At this time Rong Yueshan's voice rang out. She said to Thunderbolt Batian, young noble Feng is still useful to us. If young city lord kills him, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Chapter 422. Rong Yueshan pleaded on Wind Crown's behalf. You're right, Thunderbolt Batian replied. I can't just kill him like that. That'd be letting the father and son off too lightly. I'll cripple him now and send him to the borders as a human shield. Kill me. When Feng Mian heard that Pai Batian was going to cripple him, he cried out in agitation. Don't be in such a hurry. I'll cripple you first, Thunderbolt Batian laughed sinisterly. Perhaps I won't even need to kill you, you'll die on your own. I've just learned the bone-breaking palm and I can use it on you. As soon as Thunderbolt Batian finished speaking, the clear sound of bones breaking could be heard, followed by Wind Crown's heart-wrenching howl of pain. This palm strike only broke your leg. Thunderbolt Batian said, my next palm strike will shatter your spirit sea and turn you into a cripple who will never be able to cultivate. Thunderbolt Batian gathered spiritual energy in his palm and slammed it down on Wind Crown's spiritual vortex. Just then someone broke through the wall and caught Thunderbolt Batian's palm. As the two palms met, Thunderbolt Batian felt a huge wave of spiritual energy rush toward him, forcing him back a few steps before he could stabilize himself. Yunruoyan, Liemo. Thunderbolt Batian saw that his opponent was Liemo, and by his side was Yunruoyan. The two of them were standing in front of Wind Crown, protecting him. Thunderbolt Batian, long time no see, Liemo greeted. You're really lucky, Yunruoyan commented. As the saying goes, good people don't live long and tortoises live for thousands of years. Although they knew that Thunderbolt Batian wasn't dead, Yunruoyan and Liemo were still shocked to see that not only was he alive, but he had even recovered to his former state. After all, they had personally witnessed Thunderbolt Batian's arm being chopped off, and the stab to his heart had been fatal. Ha, aren't you too lucky as well? But the one who survives to the end will be the true winner. Thunderbolt Batian glanced at Yunruoyan and Liemo. So it's just the two of you? Where's that Zhou Xian? Why didn't he come with you to die? Thunderbolt Batian had suffered a few setbacks at Zhou Yifeng's hands, and in his heart Zhou Yifeng, Yunruoyan and Liemo were all on his kill list. Courting death. Both Yunruoyan and Liemo laughed. Liemo replied disdainfully, just you? The two of us entered your Thunderclap city as if we were in an uninhabited place. How dare you all? Do you think that Thunderbolt City is your home? Come and go as you please. Today none of you will be able to return. Thunderbolt Batian shouted, where are the warriors of the warrior regiment? As soon as he gave the order, 7 or 8 warriors burst through the doors and windows of the private room. These warriors all released their auras and every one of them was at least a great perfection swordsman. The room wasn't large to begin with, and with 8 warriors surrounding Yunruoyan's group, as well as Thunderclap Batian and Rong Yueshan standing behind them, the entire room was packed to the brim. So it was a trap. Liemo whispered. Yunruoyan glanced at the surrounding warriors and whispered back, even if it was a trap we had to act. Liemo didn't respond. Instead he looked at Thunderbolt Batian with his long narrow eyes. From the looks of it, you knew that we were in Thunderbolt City all along and you set up this trap to capture us? Pai Batian sneered in a rather pleased manner and said, the two of you are top-notch in terms of concealment and speed of escape. You're so familiar with Thunderbolt City and Thunderbolt Manor, but it's as if you've entered an uninhabited land. So this young master really doesn't know when you two will come, but I know that you two will definitely come. Even without the Wind Crown based on your personalities, you two will still come for the sake of those girls from the artistic team. That's why you hung the girls from the troupe on the city walls. You did it to lure us here. Yunruoyan demanded. That's right. Thunderbolt Batian didn't deny his motives at all. I knew that you'd go up to the city walls and find out the whereabouts of their leader from that slut. As a result, I've had my men keep an eye on Auntie Hong every day, and I finally found out that you'd rescued Auntie Hong's servant, Ah Fei, from the prison. Coupled with the fact that a battle is about to break out, you'd definitely be anxious to enter the Thunderbolt Manor to capture the Wind Coronet. However, I wasn't confident that I'd be able to capture you there. That's why you came up with the idea of using young Master Feng as bait to capture us, Liemo added. That's right. The entire tea house is filled with warriors of the Thunderbolt Manor, and I'd like to see how you'll escape with the Wind Coronet. Thunderbolt Batian's face was filled with glee. If not for the Wind Coronet, it wouldn't have been impossible for the two of them to break out of the encirclement. However, the Wind Coronet's legs were severely injured, and it was difficult for him to even stand up. Yunruoyan wished that she could store him in her silver bracelet like Qiuqiu did. As this thought flashed through her mind, Qiuqiu's voice rang out in her mind. Mistress, you still have something you haven't used yet. It'll come in handy this time. Yun Ruoyan scanned the bracelet with her spiritual sense and saw the item that Qiuqiu was talking about. A faint smile appeared on her face. Then Yun Ruoyan had Qiuqiu relay this news to Li Mo. When Li Mo heard Qiuqiu's voice, he turned to look at Yun Ruoyan, who nodded back at him. Don't worry about me. Just then the heavily injured wind coronet, who was lying behind Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, spoke up. You two escape on your own. Yun Ruoyan turned to look at the wind coronet. Blood was trickling from the corner of his mouth, and his internal injuries were probably not light. She turned around and squatted down to pass a healing pill to Wind Crown. At the same time she took out an item and placed it in his hand. Then she said in a very small voice, once we start fighting, open this. The Wind Crown took the item and nodded. Yun Ruoyan stood up once more and stood next to Li Mo. Li Mo glanced at Yun Ruoyan, who nodded back at him almost imperceptibly. Only then did Li Mo turn to Thunderbolt Batian. Do you think this will be enough to trap us? Young lord, we've come prepared. All right, I'd like to see just how prepared you are, Thunderbolt Batian ordered. Capture these three. Following Thunderbolt Batian's command, the 7 or 8 warriors each took out their weapons and charged at the two. Young lord, do it. Yun Ruoyan called out to the wind coronet behind her as she took out Qi Tong. Thunderbolt Batian paused for a moment, then unfurled the scroll in his hand. As soon as it was unfurled, the scroll emitted a white light that enveloped him. In the blink of an eye, Thunderbolt Batian, the white light and the scroll disappeared. A spatial scroll. Thunderbolt Batian exclaimed. He hadn't expected Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan to have such a trick up their sleeves. My apologies, but when I came here from the Qinyuan continent, I still had this treasure with me and I never had the chance to use it, Yun Ruoyan replied slowly. It just so happens that it's coming in handy today. This spatial scroll had been refined by the first elder on the Qinyuan continent, and it had been kept in Yun Ruoyan's pocket dimension all this time. If not for Qiuqiu's reminder, Yun Ruoyan would have forgotten about it. Since there's nothing to worry about, my wife and I won't be playing with you anymore, young lord. As Li Mo spoke, he swept the azure light sword in his hand in all directions, and the powerful sword Qi instantly forced all the surrounding warriors to retreat. The doors and windows of the private room were also sent flying by the sword Qi. The wooden walls were shattered and the roof collapsed. Li Mo held Yun Ruoyan's hand as they stepped onto the sword and soared into the clouds. Capture them for me. Thunderclap knocked aside a large piece of wood that had fallen from the roof with his bare hands and pointed at Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo in midair. As soon as Yun Ruoyan turned around, she saw that the hand that Thunderbolt Batian had pointed at them was wearing an ancient-looking ring. It was Lin Qingqian's spatial ring, but with the current circumstances, it would be nearly impossible to retrieve it. Yun Ruoyan gritted her teeth and turned her attention away from the ring. 7 or 8 warriors charged toward Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan on their swords, while Yun Ruoyan continued to use her spiritual techniques to repel them. However, their speed couldn't keep up with Li Mo's sword in the first place, and with Yun Ruoyan's interference, the two of them managed to shake them off in less than 2 hours. After shaking off the warriors, the two of them didn't leave immediately. Instead, they circled around the city once more before sneaking into the city. Li Mo had released Immortal, who had been hiding in his sleeves when no one was paying attention. By the time the two of them entered Thunderbolt, the sky had already darkened, and the city had entered a curfew. Under Emo's lead, the two of them easily evaded the city's patrols and arrived at a small alley not far from the tea house that they had just entered. This small alley was a gathering place for some beggars. At night there were beggars sleeping everywhere. Young master, we're here to pick you up, Yun Ruoyan called out as soon as she landed. I'm here. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo immediately walked toward the source of the call. Feng Mian struggled to stand up from the crowd of beggars, but his leg was injured and he was unable to do so. Li Mo reached out and helped him up. Yun Ruoyan looked at Feng Mian from head to toe. He was dressed in beggar's clothes and he looked extremely disheveled. In the evening, a warrior came to investigate and I swapped clothes with a beggar, Feng Mian began. Wind Crown said, it's all thanks to Miss Yun's spatial scroll this time. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for me to escape. I've only heard my father mention this scroll before, but I didn't expect to see it on the two of you. Young master, there's no need to be so polite. This is only a low-rank spatial scroll, and it can only teleport you 100 meters away. We didn't expect it to be so useful this time either, Yun Ruoyan began. We'll take you away from Thunderbolt City now. Because the teleportation distance was too short, this spatial scroll had never been put to use, but this time it had proved to be a great help. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo brought Feng Mian and Hoodlum, who had been waiting for them along the way. The three of them flew out of the eastern gate that very night, heading toward Wind City. Hoodlum flew behind them on a white sword. She turned back to look at the 15 corpses of her sisters hanging from the city walls, and her tears flowed uncontrollably. She knew that it wouldn't be long before her most beloved mistress would be hanging from the city walls, exposed to the elements and bitten by flies. As soon as we get back, we'll send someone over to retrieve the corpses of our sisters. Yun Ruoyan walked up to Hoodlum's side, her eyes also brimming with tears as she looked at the city walls behind them. She sighed. But Auntie Hong, I understand Miss Yun. Hoodlum wiped away the tears on her face. To have her abandon her sisters and escape on her own is even more unbearable than killing her. That's right, Yun Ruoyan replied. I rarely admire anyone, but Auntie Hong is an extraordinary woman that I can't help but admire. It's a pity that she and Feng Mian had to go together. Chapter 423. After a full day and night of flight, the three of them finally arrived at Sun City, a city on the outskirts of Wind City. Wind Crown was currently discussing the upcoming battle with Feng Yicheng and Feng Bo in the camp's main tent. Suddenly, a warrior came to report that 4 people were flying towards them from the direction of Thunderbolt City. It must be Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan who rescued the young city lord. Feng Yicheng exclaimed. Feng Yenyang and Feng Bo also stood up from their seats and walked out of the tent, looking up at the 4 approaching figures. Great, we're finally back. When Feng Yenyang saw them clearly, he finally said excitedly. The 4 of them landed in front of the tent and Feng Yenyang and the other 2 hurried over. Mian Feng Yenyang called out. Father. Feng Mian called out to his father with tears in his eyes. He had finally returned to his father's side, and his heart was filled with mixed emotions. Feng Mian had expected that Feng Yenyang would greet him warmly upon seeing him, but he didn't expect that Feng Yenyang would suddenly stop in front of him. His concerned expression also disappeared, replaced by a stern expression. Then before Feng Mian could react, Feng Yenyang suddenly raised his hand and gave Feng Mian a slap. Feng Mian's leg was already injured, and this slap almost caused him to lose his balance. Fortunately, Feng Yicheng reached out to support him and Feng Mian didn't fall to the ground. Father. Feng Mian clutched his face in disbelief. Why did you hit me? You unfilial son. Feng Yenyang pointed at Feng Mian's nose angrily. You don't even know why I hit you? What did I teach you in the past? I told you to cultivate your character and stay away from gambling and brothels, but what did you do? Not only did you break the rules of the army, you even fell into the enemy's trap. Do you think you deserve to be hit? Feng Mian clutched his face and pursed his lips. He didn't say a word, but his gaze and expression were unyielding. City Lord, the young City Lord has only just returned and he's still injured. Please don't be too harsh on him, Feng Bo interjected. Wind Count. Feng Yenyang shouted angrily. I haven't punished you yet. I told you to discipline him strictly, but you always let him do as he pleases. With his current state, how can I be at ease leaving the Feng clan in his hands in the future? City Lord, it's my fault. Count of the Wind bowed and said, I didn't fulfill my duty as a teacher. If you want to punish someone, punish me. Feng Yenyang looked at the unconvinced Feng Mian, then at Feng Bo and finally sighed. His tone was filled with disappointment. Forget it. This is a lesson for you. If there's a next time, I won't send anyone to save you, you unfilial son. Father, thank you for saving my life. Feng Mian said coldly. Without waiting for Feng Yenyang to reply, he shook off Feng Yicheng's support and limped towards his own residence. Stop. Feng Yenyang shouted from behind. What kind of attitude is this? Do you still respect me, your father? City Lord, please calm down. Young City Lord just escaped from death. Don't be angry with him. Feng Yicheng advised. Yicheng, don't speak up for him. If he was half as capable as you, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Feng Yangyang's words sounded behind Feng Mian. Every word was like a knife stabbing into his back, piercing through his flesh and straight into his heart. He felt a fishy taste gushing out from his stomach. Then he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Young city lord. Mian. Amidst the cries of the crowd, Feng Mian finally couldn't hold on any longer and fell to the ground. Although Feng Mian didn't suffer any serious internal injuries, his external injuries were very serious. He didn't have time to treat his injuries during the flight. Plus, he was so angry that he fainted just like that. Punter, how could you be so reckless this time? In Pi City's Castellan mansion, Thunderflame reprimanded Thunderflame when he found out that Feng Mian had been rescued. We went through so much trouble to finally capture Feng Yangyang's only son, and you actually let him be rescued just like that? I heard from the warriors that you brought him out on purpose. Why? You have to explain yourself to me today. Father, please calm down. Thunderflame hurriedly took a cup of tea from the table and handed it to Thunderflame, but Thunderflame waved it away, clearly angered by Thunderflame's decision. Thunderbolt Batian placed the teacup back on the table and said, I naturally have my reasons for doing this. Thunderflame raised an eyebrow. What reasons do you have? Father, what kind of person do you think Feng Yangyang is? Thunderflame asked in return. What kind of person is Feng Yangyang? Thunderflame repeated Thunderflame's words, thinking for a moment before replying, he's a crafty old Daoist, a hypocrite. Apart from being crafty, he's also a strong-willed man who's willing to sacrifice everything for his family, Thunderflame added. Based on my understanding of him, he wouldn't surrender to us for Feng Mian, not even in exchange for Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. If we were to use Feng Mian as a meat shield to threaten Feng Yangyang, we'd be tarnishing the Thunderflame family's reputation. If we were to kill Feng Mian, we'd be used by the Feng family to accuse us of being ruthless. Not only would Feng Mian be of no use to us, but he'd also become a hot potato. So, you purposely brought him out and let someone save him? Thunderflame asked. And our kidnapping of Wind Crown was just a waste of effort? That's not the case, Thunderflame hurriedly replied. When I captured Feng Mian, I already had a plan in mind. This was my first move, and if things had gone according to my plan, the Feng family might have lost without us having to do anything. Even if they hadn't lost, it would have been a fatal blow to them. Oh. Hearing Pai Baishan's words, Thunderflame finally revealed a look of interest. Your father would like to hear what this move of yours is. How could it be so powerful? Thunderous Flame frowned. After Thunderous Flame finished speaking, Thunderous Flame turned to look at him and said, Are you confident that things will develop according to your plan? Thunderous Flame asked. Are you confident that things will develop according to your plan? To be honest, I'm only 50% confident, Thunderflame replied. Thunderbolt Batian said, The key lies in Crown Wind. Based on my understanding of him and Feng Yangyang, in addition to the effort I've put in these few days, I definitely have a 50% chance of success. Even if things don't work out, we won't lose anything. 50%, Thunderflame replied. Thunderflame glanced at Thunderflame appreciatively and said, If this is the result, then the 50% chance is worth it. That night, Feng Yicheng sat in an empty field, gulping down a mouthful of wine. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo walked up to him. Brother Feng, we were looking for you to drink with us, Li Mo began. Do you mind joining us? Feng Yicheng lowered his head and didn't speak, but he shook his head to indicate that he didn't mind. Li Mo sat by his side, took off his robe and placed it on the ground. Yun Ruoyan sat on top of his robe. Feng Yicheng raised his head and drank all of the wine in his gourd in one gulp. Then with a clang he threw the gourd far away. Li Mo handed him the gourd and Feng Yicheng continued gulping down the contents of his gourd. Brother Feng, tomorrow's the battle. Take care of yourself, Li Mo reminded him. Earlier in the day, when Yun Ruoyan had told Feng Yicheng about Auntie Hong's situation, he'd started to lose his wits. However, he'd still insisted on listening to Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan, and Hoodlum's recount of the situation in Thunderclap City. Hoodlum's report on the smaller families was particularly important. Hoodlum had suggested continuing to incite defection from the smaller families, and he'd even volunteered to go, but Feng Yangyang had refused. Hoodlum was likely to be the sole survivor of the troop, and Feng Yenyang couldn't bear to see him risk his life again. I thought that she'd take care of herself for my sake, but she still chose to die with her sister, Feng Yicheng murmured. Is it so hard to live for my sake? Don't tell me I'm not worth her living for me? No one could answer Feng Yicheng's question. Yun Ruoyan suspected that even Auntie Hong wouldn't be able to answer it. Auntie Hong was simply making her own decision, and there was no such thing as whether it was worth it or not. Auntie Hong isn't dead yet, Yun Ruoyan replied casually. If you save her yourself, perhaps she'll return with you. Feng Yicheng sat up straight, his eyes glowing as he looked at Yun Ruoyan. Are you telling the truth? If I save her myself, will she leave with me? I can't be sure, Yun Ruoyan replied. Yun Ruoyan looked at Feng Yicheng and replied honestly, but there's a higher chance. Even so, I think you should give it a try. Give it a try, a higher chance. Feng Yicheng repeated Yun Ruoyan's words, the light in his eyes fading as he smiled bitterly. The battle will begin the day after tomorrow and I'm the vanguard. I can't let go of my responsibility just because of a little hope. Feng Yicheng raised his head and drank the entire flask of wine that Liemo had given him. Yun Ruoyan sighed. If you think that responsibility is more important than a little hope, I suggest that you don't drink. It'll only make things worse. Yun Ruoyan was about to stand up when Liemo stood up and gently helped her up. I'm tired. Let's go back, Yun Ruoyan said as she leaned against Liemo. All right, Liemo murmured, then helped Yun Ruoyan leave. Yun Ruoyan stopped after 2 steps and turned back to Feng Yicheng. If you can't save her, think of how to avenge her. You don't have to drink this wine. Feng Yicheng finally stopped drinking. He tossed the flask in his hand to Liemo, who caught it with a wave of his hand. Then he put the flask away and helped Yun Ruoyan continue walking. Feng Yicheng's shouts came from behind them. Hong, I'll kill the Thunder Father and Son to avenge you. Chapter 424. On a small path in the barracks, Liemo supported Yun Ruoyan as they walked carefully. Even when Yun Ruoyan wanted to walk faster, Liemo would feel strangely nervous. Liemo, I haven't had Xianxia and Count of the Wind take a look yet. Perhaps the Kuei water came too late. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but ask, would you be disappointed if I didn't get pregnant? No, Liemo replied without hesitation. Just let nature take its course. Tomorrow I'll have Count of the Wind and Xianxia take a look at you. Despite his words, Liemo still carefully supported Yun Ruoyan. No matter what happens in the future, no matter who you're doing it for, you have to take care of yourself. Staying alive is the most important thing. Yes, Yun Ruoyan replied. Yun Ruoyan replied casually, no matter when, no matter the reason, we'll always put each other first. Good. Limeo's lips curled up slightly and he clasped his hands tightly together. In a dark corner, Zhou Yifeng watched Yun Ruoyan and Limeo's receding figures with a complicated expression. These past few days, Zhou Yifeng had been worried about Yun Ruoyan and Liemo in Thunderbolt City. Now that she had finally returned safely, he didn't even have the courage to appear in front of her and speak to her. Zhou Yifeng hated himself for doing such a thing to Yun Ruoyan that night. He knew that in Yun Ruoyan's heart he must have been a terrible person and she would never want to see him again. You really can't be taught. That sinister voice appeared in Zhou Yifeng's mind once more. I've already helped you take the first step, but you still don't dare to take the second. This voice transformed all of Zhou Yifeng's helplessness and bitterness into anger. He gripped tightly onto a vine beside him, so tightly that he didn't even notice the thorns on the vine stabbing into his hand. Fresh blood dripped from his palm onto the moist soil. If it weren't for me, you probably wouldn't even be able to hold the hand of the woman you love in your life. But because of my help, you've already tasted her. The demon spirit once again used that bewitching voice to say, isn't it very sweet? Zhou Yifeng, don't you want more now? As long as you follow my wishes, I can guarantee you a complete Yun Ruoyan. What do you think? Dream on. Zhou Yifeng clenched his teeth and sneered. If there comes a day when I can't control you, I'll definitely take you to hell with me when that day comes. Aren't you looking forward to that day? You. The demon spirit was choked by Zhou Yifeng and helplessly said, forget it, one day you will understand how wonderful it is to follow your own desires. That day will never come. Zhou Yifeng resolutely said, even if I die, I will never hurt the people I love. The next day, Li Mo summoned Lin Qingchen and Count of the Wind to his and Yun Ruoyan's lodgings. Lin Qingchen first took Yun Ruoyan's pulse, and when she placed her finger on Lin Qingchen's wrist, her face lit up with joy. Sister Ruoyan, you're pregnant. Yun Ruoyan looked at Lin Qingchen, her picturesque eyes filled with both joy and nervousness. Qingchen, are you sure? Of course, Lin Qingchen replied. When I was learning how to take pulses from an old physician at the physician's residence, the first thing I learned was to take the pulse of pregnancy. There's no way I'm wrong. Sister Ruoyan, you're pregnant. Ruoyan, from now on you're not allowed to fly on a sword by yourself. Li Mo finally spoke up. Although both of them had been mentally prepared, they still couldn't help but feel excited and nervous. Especially Li Mo, a man who wouldn't frown even if the sky were to collapse, was as nervous as a child in the face of something like this. Yun Ruoyan and Lin Qingchen couldn't help but laugh when they saw Li Mo's expression. It looks like I'm no longer needed here. Count of the Wind laughed as well. That's right, Lin Qingchen joked. Lin Qingchen joked, sister brother-in-law, you're too nervous. I could have done it myself, but we still had to trouble you. Yenner has been traveling back and forth with me these past few days. Please take a good look at her and see if she needs any nourishment, Li Mo said seriously. Lin Qingchen stepped aside and allowed Count of the Wind to take Yun Ruoyan's pulse. It's nothing serious. As he took Yun Ruoyan's pulse, Count of the Wind continued, Miss Yun, no, I shouldn't call you madam. You're in good health. Because Yun Ruoyan didn't seem like a married woman, everyone was still used to calling her Mississippi. However, now that she was about to become a mother, it would be inappropriate to continue calling her Mississippi. Count of the Wind paused, as if he had discovered something, and frowned. What's the matter, Count of the Wind? Count of the Wind's actions made Li Mo nervous. Are you practicing a yin-yang cultivation technique? Count of the Wind asked. We'll have to stop for a while. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo glanced at each other, instantly understanding what Count of the Wind meant by yin-yang cultivation. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but blush. Li Mo hurriedly nodded. Yes. Is there anything else we should pay attention to? Not at the moment. Count of the Wind thought for a moment. How about this? Today I'll refine a few pills to protect your pregnancy in case you need them. Tomorrow's the big battle. As the commander-in-chief, you're bound to be busy, so let's not waste your time. Both Li Mo and I know how to refine pills. If you give us the recipe, we can refine the pills ourselves. Yes, we can refine them ourselves, Li Mo agreed. That's fine too. Count Feng said, I will write down the formula for you. You can refine the medicine according to the formula. You can carry the medicine with you just in case. The Count of Feng walked over to his desk and wrote down the recipe and concoction method, handing it to Li Mo. There's no need for the two of you to participate in the battle tomorrow, Count of the Wind said. The battle is yet to come. Just then Feng Yicheng suddenly ran into the room in a panic. As he ran, he shouted, Count of the Wind, where's Count of the Wind? Come and save me. Everyone's hearts trembled when they saw Feng Yicheng's expression. What could have caused him to lose his composure like this? Hey, what happened? Count of the Wind hurriedly walked up to him and asked. Everyone's gaze turned to Feng Yicheng. Quick, go to the city lord. He's been assassinated. Feng Yicheng shouted. Feng Yangyang had been assassinated. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They rushed out of the door and sword rays appeared under their feet as they flew towards Feng Yangyang's residence. City lord. As soon as Feng Bo's feet touched the ground, he yelled as he ran into the house. There was a pool of dark red blood at the door of the house, which extended all the way into the house. Count of the Wind rushed into the room and looked at the bedridden Feng Yangyang. Feng Yangyang's face was extremely pale and his eyes were half-lidded. Clearly he had lost too much blood. Feng Yangyang's bed was surrounded by 5 or 6 secret warriors, all of whom had been sent by Count of the Wind to protect him. Count of the Wind couldn't believe that Feng Yangyang had been so heavily injured under such tight protection. Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan and Feng Yicheng rushed over, and they were equally shocked to see Feng Yangyang's injuries. It wasn't unusual for someone to be assassinated, and it was understandable for him to be lightly injured. But for him to be so heavily injured in his own camp, under the protection of so many experts, was simply unbelievable. After a brief moment of shock, Count of the Wind immediately rushed forward to treat Feng Yangyang's injuries. Count of the Wind took out several bottles of spiritual pills and fed them to Feng Yangyang. Then he infused a large amount of spiritual energy into his body. Only then did Feng Yangyang's pale face regain some color. However, his chest was still bleeding profusely. Both Yun Ruoyun and Liemo took out medicines to stop the bleeding, but the high-grade and even saint-grade medicines seemed to have no effect on Feng Yangyang's wound. Blood continued to gush out of the wound. Everyone knew that the wound was not an ordinary one. What's going on? Count of the Wind couldn't help but shout at the warriors around him. All the warriors knelt on the ground with a thud and lowered their heads. Not a single one of them opened their mouths to speak. I know what happened. Feng Yicheng walked to Feng Yangyang's bed and knelt down as well. If you know, then tell me what happened. Who's the assassin and where did he go? Count of the Wind asked. The assassin was the young city lord, Feng Yicheng replied. What? What did you say? Say it again. Who's the assassin? Count of the Wind couldn't believe his ears. He grabbed Feng Yicheng by the collar and lifted him up. Uncle, the city lord was stabbed by the young city lord, said Feng Yicheng as he looked up at the Count of Wind. How is that possible? Why would he assassinate the city lord? Why would he kill his own father? Count of the Wind's eyes were wide open, filled with shock, confusion, and disbelief. Count of the Wind, it was indeed the young city lord who did it. The captain of the warrior group, Old Lin, said, if it wasn't for the young city lord, how could we have let him succeed? We didn't expect that the young city lord would assassinate the city lord, so we didn't take any precautions. That's why it led to such a disaster. We deserve to die. All of the warriors shouted. It's really the young city lord. It's really the young city lord. Why? Count of Wind asked in a suppressed voice. Feng Yangyang called out weakly. City lord. Feng Yangyang immediately went to Feng Yangyang's side to listen to him. Capture that unfilial son. Feng Yangyang said with great effort. Feng Bo received the order and immediately sent a warrior to catch Feng Dian. After Feng Dian stabbed Feng Yangyang, he took advantage of the chaos and ran away. Along the way, no one intercepted him because of his identity as the young city lord. However, not much time had passed, and with his cultivation he could not run far. Feng Yangyang's wound was on his heart. The dagger was pulled out on the spot and his heart was fatally injured. Even in this situation, with an expert like Count of the Wind and a large amount of spirit herbs, Feng Yangyang should have been able to be saved. However, the dagger had been tempered with a type of poison that prevented the wound from healing and sped up the flow of blood. There was no antidote for this poison. Once one was poisoned, they would bleed profusely and eventually die from excessive blood loss. Chapter 425. The warriors were sent out to capture Feng Mian. Feng Yangyang knew he wouldn't be able to survive and could only rely on spirit medicines and Feng Bo's spirit energy to keep him alive. Yicheng, come here. Feng Yangyang stared at the kneeling Feng Yicheng. Feng Yicheng kneeled in front of Feng Yangyang and waited for his order. Feng Yangyang then turned to Feng Bo and said, Feng Bo, bring me the second box in the drawer of my desk. Feng Bo nodded and followed Feng Yangyang's instructions. He took out a purplish-red jade box from the drawer and handed it to Feng Yangyang respectfully. Open it. Feng Yangyang continued to order, and Count of Feng opened the purplish-red jade box. Inside the jade box lay a large, sparkling and translucent seal. This is a seal carved from a piece of saint-grade spirit crystal stone. Feng Yangyang said, it is also the symbol of the Lord of Wind City. Originally, this seal should have been inherited by my only son Feng Mian, but that unfilial son lost the right to inherit Wind City. Now I will pass this seal to a descendant of the Feng clan, Feng Yicheng. City Lord. Feng Yicheng looked at Feng Yangyang in shock. How can I inherit Wind City? I can't. Feng Bo was also shocked and knelt with Feng Yicheng. Absolutely not, Yicheng is still young and has a lowly status. How can he inherit Wind City? Absolutely not. Yicheng is the most outstanding descendant of the Feng clan. Feng Yangyang said, if I say he is qualified, then he is qualified. But, no buts. Feng Yangyang had clearly made up his mind. He looked at the stunned Feng Yicheng and said, Yicheng, I will now, in the name of the Feng clan lord, bestow this seal that represents the authority of the clan to you. You must uphold the Feng clan's traditions and make it flourish. Feng Yicheng looked at Feng Bo and then at Feng Yangyang, but he still didn't dare to take the seal. Hey, you're a good child. Do you want to see me die with my eyes open? Feng Yangyang panicked and blood flowed out of his chest even more violently. Brother Feng, Liemo spoke up from the side. This is an urgent matter and you've been entrusted with this task. Zai. Count of the Wind also sighed and said, you can continue this journey. Only then did Feng Yicheng tremblingly accept the purple-red box with the seal inside. Feng Yicheng will remember City Lord's words. Feng Yicheng held the box in his hand and kowtowed deeply to Feng Yangyang. At this time old Lin walked in from outside the door and reported, the young City Lord has been captured. How should we deal with him? Everyone's gaze fell on Feng Yangyang waiting for his order. Feng Yangyang's face revealed a pained and complicated expression. His only son was the one who killed him. This kind of pain was incomprehensible to those who had never experienced it. Detain the young City Lord first. Seeing Feng Yangyang's reaction, Feng Yangyang wanted to postpone this matter, but Feng Yangyang said, bring that unfilial son here. Yes. Old Lin replied and walked out. Then he brought 2 warriors with him and brought Wind Crown in. Feng Mian's clothes were disheveled. He had clearly been through a fight and he was limping as he walked. Let me go. Feng Mian struggled free of the 2 warriors' restraints and stood in front of Feng Yangyang's bed. Unfilial son, kneel. Feng Yangyang sat up agitatedly. Large amounts of blood gushed out of his chest, but he didn't seem to notice it at all. Even though Feng Yangyang was on the verge of death, his authority as the head of the family didn't diminish. Feng Mian knelt with a thud and buried his head in the ground. Father, young City Lord, why did you do this to the City Lord? He's your father. Count of the Wind asked in confusion. Feng Mian raised his head and looked at Feng Yangyang on the bed. He's my father, but that's only in name. He's never cared about me. You're my only son. Is it wrong for me to be strict with you? Feng Yangyang emotionally said, your talents are not high, so I hoped that you would be able to cultivate. But later on I found that it was hard to make up for it. I could only hope that you could cultivate your mind, but you couldn't even do this. So, you want to cripple me and give the position to Feng Yicheng. Feng Mian straightened his back and pointed at Feng Yicheng. At this time Feng Yicheng was holding the clan master's seal. Sometimes I wonder if I am your son or if Feng Yicheng is your son. Feng Mian continued, ever since Feng Yicheng came, every time you mentioned him, you would be full of praise and satisfaction. But when it comes to me you only have dissatisfaction. Are you satisfied now? You finally have a reason to give the position to Feng Yicheng. You have been planning this for a long time and now it has finally come true. Young City Lord. Count of the Wind interrupted, who told you that the City Lord passed the position to Yicheng? The City Lord has always been grooming you as his successor. Otherwise he wouldn't be so strict with you. Why did you misunderstand the City Lord? I didn't misunderstand him. Feng Mian stood up and pointed at Feng Yangyang on the bed. Thunderbolt Batian stole his handwritten letter. The letter said that he wanted to accept Feng Yicheng as his son to replace me, so you guys don't have to force yourselves to save me. Even if you did save me, I wouldn't be qualified to be the City Lord with my aptitude. He told you to help Feng Yicheng in the future. So that's why you tried to kill the City Lord? Count of the Wind was heartbroken. Yes. Feng Mian didn't deny it. He hysterically said, that is clearly my position, why would I give it to Feng Yicheng? He's only a lowly person from the Feng clan from a lower continent. I made a deal with Thunderbolt Batian. As long as I kill my father and submit to Thunderbolt City, I can inherit Wind City and obtain everything I deserve. I am the young master of the Feng clan, I am the future City Lord of Wind City. Feng Mian looked at the people around him with a crazed expression. But when he saw the pale and dying Feng Yangyang on the bed, his legs softened and he knelt down. Tears finally flowed down his face. Father, why can't I meet your demands no matter how hard I try? Why do you only feel dissatisfied and harsh towards me? Why was I captured as a hostage? I suffered so much in prison but you didn't care at all? Why didn't you come to see me when I was seriously injured and unconscious? You didn't come to see me so I had to come to see you. But you still didn't give me a good look and told me to leave here, to stay in Wind City and not cause trouble for you. Could it be that I, your son, have always been a burden to you? Feng Yangyang was stunned when he heard Feng Mian's words. He never thought that his strict request would hurt Feng Mian. He indeed hated iron for not becoming steel, but Feng Mian was his son. Which father in this world wouldn't love his own child? But when Feng Yangyang thought about it, he didn't seem to have a loving side to Feng Mian other than being strict. Father, I really didn't want to do this to you. You wanted to give up on me so I couldn't control myself, father. Feng Mian once again prostrated on the ground. You've been deceived. I didn't write that letter and I've never thought of giving up on you. Before you attacked me I still treated you as my successor. Feng Yangyang said in a low voice. But you are indeed not the candidate for the Wind City Lord. I already knew this, but because you are my son I still wanted to pass the position to you. I really hoped that you would be able to live up to my expectations. But things have proven that I shouldn't have forced you. It's my fault. City Lord, you should take a rest. We can talk about the matter of the young lord later. Feng Bo saw that Feng Yangyang's condition wasn't good. Feng Yangyang waved his hand. He knew that he couldn't make it. If he continued to lose blood like this, he would only be able to live for another 2 hours even with spirit medicines and spirit energy. He had to make the best use of his time. Imprison Feng Mian in the city lord's manor for the rest of his life, Feng Yangyang ordered. Feng Yangyang said, Feng Yicheng will be the next city lord and the next Feng clan master. Everyone here will do their best to support him. Yes, city lord. Everyone, including Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo, responded. Before the battle between the Feng and Li families ends, no funeral will be announced. You must destroy the Li family and avenge me. Feng Yangyang continued. 2 hours after Feng Yangyang issued these orders, he was finally unable to reverse the situation due to excessive blood loss and passed away with great regret. Feng Mian was then escorted back to the Wind City Lord's manor. Feng Yicheng took over the position of City Lord without any preparation, and the battle was about to begin on the second day. Feng Yangyang's funeral was kept a secret. In fact, apart from a few people present at the time, not many people from the Feng family knew that he had passed away. Feng Yicheng took up residence in the main tent as the commander-in-chief. He ordered Zhu Yifeng to take over his position as the vanguard of the Feng army. With the help of Feng Bo and Li Mo, he continued to plan for tomorrow's battle. In just half a day, Feng Yicheng had fully displayed his talent as a commander. He had arranged everything perfectly, and it wasn't any worse than when Feng Yangyang was still around. Even Feng Bo couldn't help but admire Feng Yicheng even more. The next day, before the sun had even risen, Feng Yicheng personally led 500 warriors out of Yang City. They headed straight for another town that used to belong to the Feng family, but had since been taken over by the Li family. When the army arrived at Li City's gate, the guards finally reacted. Even though they had already prepared their defenses, the Feng clan's sudden attack was truly unexpected. It only took half a day for Feng Yicheng to take down Li City. Without stopping, Feng Yicheng took back Li City and led the 500 warriors to the next city that the Thunderclap clan conquered. Chapter 426. In just 3 short days, Feng Yicheng relied on the power of 500 warriors to take back the 5 small cities that the Thunderclap clan had taken from the Feng clan. The Thunderbolt clan also reacted quickly. Outside the Thunderbolt clan's border city, Flame City, the Thunderbolt clan's warriors, led by Thunderbolt Batian, quickly set up a sturdy defense. Feng Yicheng's 500 warriors were met with their first strong resistance and counterattack. After repelling Feng Yicheng's 2 attacks, Thunderbolt Batian opened the city gates with his 500 warriors and engaged Feng Yicheng in direct combat. Feng Yicheng's 500 warriors had already been fighting for 3 to 4 days. Naturally, they weren't a match for Thunderbolt Batian and his subordinates. Zhu Yifeng, who was leading the vanguard, rode to Feng Yicheng's side. City Lord, were no match for them. Let's retreat. Feng Yicheng looked at the Thunderbolt clan's warriors, whose morale had been greatly boosted by their victory. His expression grew serious. With a wave of his hand he ordered, "Retreat." Zhou Yifeng guarded Feng Yicheng's left and right sides as they retreated toward the cities they had previously conquered. Want to run? Not so easy. Thunderbolt Batian led his subordinates in hot pursuit of Feng Yicheng and Zhou Yifeng. They followed them all the way into a ravine before stopping. "Young lord, the terrain here is dangerous. We can't go any further," one of Thunderbolt Batian's personal warriors informed him. Thunderbolt Batian looked around at the ravines on both sides. The terrain was indeed treacherous. Even the horse he was riding seemed to sense the danger and became uneasy. "Retreat," Thunderbolt Batian ordered. However, as soon as he gave his order, another order came from above the canyon. "Attack." Nearly 100 warriors instantly appeared above the ravine. The one who had given the order was none other than Li Mo. Feng Yicheng and Zhou Yifeng's 500 warriors turned their horses around and charged at Thunderbolt Batian and his warriors. The sky was filled with fireballs, vines, icicles, rocks, and even sandstorms that covered the sky flew towards Thunderbolt Batian and the others. In front of them was the counterattack of Wind Yicheng, Zhou Yifeng and the other 500 warriors. "Retreat, retreat quickly." Thunderbolt Batian's group of several hundred cultivators retreated in panic as they tried to fend off the hundreds of cultivators on either side of the gorge, who were executing all sorts of external spiritual techniques under Li Mo's leadership. In the blink of an eye, the chase had turned into an escape. Under the desperate protection of several hundred Thunderclap warriors, Thunderclap Batian managed to escape back to Flame City. However, the warriors that followed him suffered heavy casualties. In the end, less than 50 of them managed to escape with him. On the square of the Feng clan's barracks, Old Lin and the other warriors who had just participated in the battle were flushed with excitement. The battle just now had vented the anger that had been bottled up for more than a year. Old Lin laughed heartily as he recounted the battle to a few warriors who had not participated in it. Everyone's blood was boiling as they listened. How satisfying. Those bastards were beaten to the point that they pissed their pants in terror and fled for their lives. They were truly in a sorry state. That Pai Batian is the same. If it weren't for his subordinates risking their lives to protect him, we would have definitely taken his head. But, boss, you're too biased. Why didn't you let me participate in such an intense battle? "I'll definitely participate next time," one of the warriors who had stayed behind complained. "It's me too. I want to go as well. There's no point in staying behind. We're all going to fight." The other warriors who hadn't participated in the battle chimed in. "This is only the beginning. There will be no shortage of intense battles in the future. Everyone will have a chance." Old Lin glanced at Zhou Yifeng, who was standing to the side with his arms crossed. Old Lin couldn't help but recall the battle in front of him. Zhou Yifeng's black whip was like an evil dragon from hell, so powerful that even Old Lin was alarmed. Old Lin had seen with his own eyes how Zhou Yifeng had whipped a peak blade master off his horse, then sent him flying with another lash. Zhou Yifeng was the second person Old Lin had seen, other than Fengbo, to be able to injure a peak blade master in an instant. However, Old Lin could tell that Zhou Yifeng's spiritual technique hadn't reached the level of a peak blade master, which puzzled him a little. "Zhou Yifeng." Old Lin walked up to Zhou Yifeng and didn't beat around the bush. "What's your level of cultivation now?" "9th rank blade master." "Why?" Zhou Yifeng countered. "You really haven't reached the level of a peak blade master?" "No. Is there a problem?" Zhou Yifeng frowned. "On the battlefield I saw you injure a peak blade master with my own eyes. How did you do it?" Zhou Yifeng looked at Old Lin. His gaze made Old Lin feel cold for some reason. Just as Old Lin was about to speak again, Zhou Yifeng suddenly laughed. "Brother Lin, don't joke around. How could I possibly defeat a peak blade master? However, I did manage to send quite a few of my peers flying. You must be seeing things." "I'm seeing things? That's impossible." "Hey Zhou Yifeng, don't go. Brother Lin, I'd better hurry back and cultivate so that I can reach the level of a peak blade master as soon as possible." Old Lin wanted to continue asking, but Zhou Yifeng had already left the plaza. As Zhou Yifeng walked out of the plaza, the sinister voice in his head rang out once more. "People will discover my existence sooner or later, especially Yun Ruian and Li Mo. Zhou Yifeng, you'd better make your plans. Do you have a way to help me break through to the level of a peak blade master?" Yifeng asked the demon spirit. If he didn't want others to suspect him of borrowing the demon spirit's power, the only way was to increase his own strength. Of course I do. The demon spirit's tone was excited. But you'll have to pay a price for making a deal with me. What price? Zhou Xian asked. To deepen our fusion, the demon spirit replied. I'm not trying to take advantage of you. There's a huge bottleneck between 9th rank and peak level Blade Master, and in order for you to break through this bottleneck, you'll need to borrow my demonic energy. That way we'll have to deepen our bond. Deepening the degree of fusion with the demon soul was not a joke. Zhou Yifeng could still suppress the demon soul now, but once he deepened the degree of fusion, Zhou Yifeng knew that the demon soul would do everything possible to suppress him. Actually, you don't have to take this risk. The demon spirit clearly saw through Zhou Yifeng's concerns. If you don't want anyone to discover your secret, the best way is to leave. Leave this place, leave everyone, and find a secluded place to cultivate. When the spatial gate opens next year, you can return to where you came from or stay here forever. Naturally, Zhou Yifeng wouldn't leave. The war between the Feng and Thunderbolt families was imminent, and Yun Ruian would be caught in the whirlpool of that war. At a time like this, Zhou Yifeng couldn't possibly leave. All right, I agree to your price. Zhou Yifeng no longer hesitated. You're really willing to strengthen your fusion with me? The demon spirit couldn't believe his ears. You're actually willing to make such a sacrifice for that Yun Ruian? Zhou Yifeng, I really don't understand you at all. You like her, but you didn't dare confess your feelings for her. I helped you confess, but now you don't even dare to see her. You're actually willing to make such a sacrifice for her when she doesn't even know anything? Are you stupid? Stupid. Zhou Yifeng smiled bitterly. Perhaps, but I'm willing to do this. Falling in love with someone who would never fall in love with him meant sacrificing himself. Zhou Yifeng had already come to this realization. With the Feng family's first victory, their morale soared. Feng Yicheng led his army directly to the outskirts of Inferno City and set up camp ready to attack. This Feng family is getting more and more arrogant. Thunderflame and Thunderbolt Batian stood side by side on top of Flame City's gate while looking at the Feng clan's camp 1 mile away from the city. Not only arrogant but cunning as well. Thunder Tyrant Heavenly Dao. Because he underestimated the enemy, he fell into the enemy's trap. As a result, he lost hundreds of warriors. Even several of the warriors of the secret warrior group who had reached the Great Perfection Realm were killed. The losses could not be said to be not heavy. We'll fight again tomorrow. Don't underestimate your enemy. If you see Yun Ruian and Liemo, capture them first. Thunderflame told Thunderflame, if we lose the city we can take it back. As long as the Silver Dragon Elder is satisfied, we don't need to fear anything. Father, is the Great Elder rushing you? Thunderbolt Batian asked. As he's already angry. I didn't complete the mission within 5 days, but he still bestowed you with holy water to save your life. Do you know what this means? I don't know. Please enlighten me, Father. If we still can't capture Yun Ruian and Liemo, the Thunderflame family will disappear from the Nether Abyss continent. Thunderflame gazed into the distance. He knew that Yun Ruian and Liemo were there, but he couldn't capture them. His hands were clenched into fists. You must remember that the outcome of this battle isn't as important as capturing Yun Ruian and Liemo. I'll remember your words, Father, Thunderflame replied. I'll do everything in my power to capture Yun Ruian and Liemo. On the second day after they set up camp, the Thunderflame family began sending warriors to the Feng's camp to challenge them. Naturally, the Feng family didn't hesitate to send out their strongest warriors. This challenge was instigated by the Thunderflame family, and their goal was to regain some face from yesterday's defeat. Naturally, the Feng family wouldn't give that face to the Thunderflame family, and the two sides came to an agreement that the loser would surrender a city to the Thunderflame family. Both sides fought 7 or 8 times that day, with each side winning and losing. It wasn't until the Thunderflame family sent out a peak-level Sword Saint Cultivator that the Feng family began to lose again and again. The challenge continued into the night, and neither side seemed to have any intention of stopping. The peak-level Sword Saint Cultivator fought even more ferociously than before, showing no signs of losing. 2 warriors from the secret clan went up one after the other, and one was gravely injured while the other was dead. Even an expert like Old Lin had been severely injured. Feng Yichen, Yun Ruoyan and the others couldn't help but frown. Chapter 427. Above Flame City, Thunderflame and Thunderclap Batian watched the battle unfold. Both of them revealed delighted smiles. Although the Feng family's overall strength has increased thanks to the Lai family's help, they're still far from being a match for the Thunderflame family. Zhou Xian is a top-notch expert that we've spent a great deal of spirit stones to nurture, and the Feng family won't be able to defeat him so easily. Zhou Xian has already won 2 matches in a row, and he only needs 1 more to win this challenge. So far the only ones who can defeat Zhou Xian are the Count of Feng and Li Mo, Thunderflame added. The Count of Feng's strength isn't to be underestimated. Even I'm no match for him, and Feng Yanong will surely leave him for last to deal with us. As such, the last challenger should be Li Mo. Have you prepared the ambush I told you to prepare? Father, don't worry. Everything's ready and we're just waiting for Li Mo to take the field, Thunderflame replied angrily. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan are deeply in love, and either one of them could be used as a tool to blackmail the other. I didn't realize this until today, and I've missed so many opportunities to blackmail them. This time we have to capture one of them, Thunderflame replied. His sharp gaze landed on the Feng camp, where Yun Ruoyan, Feng Yicheng, and the others were currently on the viewing platform. Feng Yicheng was wearing a large cloak that Feng Yenyang often wore, and his face was covered by a hood. From Thunderflame's distance, Thunderflame could only make out a rough outline of his figure, but not his face. Thunder, it's been so many days, but Feng Yenyang is still alive and well. It looks like the Wind Crown didn't act according to your plan, Thunderflame commented coolly. Father, did you notice that the Wind Crown isn't on the viewing platform? Thunderbolt Batian asked as he looked at the viewing platform. Indeed, Thunderflame's tone changed. Could it be? There are 3 possibilities, Thunderflame continued. Thunderbolt Batian continued. Firstly, Wind Crown didn't take any action. However, this possibility is very small. If he didn't take any action, he would definitely appear in the stands to accompany his father. What about the other 2 scenarios? Thunderflame asked. There are 2 other possibilities. First, Feng Mian failed to assassinate Feng Yenyang and was placed under house arrest. Second, Feng Mian managed to injure Feng Yenyang but did not kill him. That's why Feng Yenyang is hiding in his seat, not even daring to stand up. Pai Batian said. In other words, the 3rd scenario is the most likely. A faint smile appeared on Thunderflame's face. The 2 of them didn't expect that Feng Yenyang was already dead. However, because of the secret funeral and Feng Yicheng's group's measures, the Feng clan was not affected at all. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan watched from the back with Feng Yicheng, Count of the Wind, and the others. Looks like I'll have to make a move if I want to defeat this person. The Count of Wind looked at the warriors of the Thunderbolt clan and said slowly. No. Feng Yicheng said, First Uncle is a great safeguard for our Feng clan. If we take action now and the Thunderbolt clan keeps on attacking, I'm afraid it won't be easy for First Uncle to deal with it. Feng Yicheng turned to Leo. Brother Li, would you be willing to lend a hand? Zhou Xian was only a first-rank sword saint, but Li Mo was a second-rank sword saint. It wouldn't be too difficult for him to defeat Zhou Xian. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan glanced at each other. Just as they were about to agree, the voices of the warriors could be heard from the camp. Someone else is going up to fight. Who? Even Old Lin has been defeated. Who else would have the guts to fight? The warriors began to discuss among themselves. Zhou Yifeng from the city guards. Someone who recognized Zhou Yifeng exclaimed. Is his cultivation even higher than Old Lin's? Why didn't we know? Zhou Yifeng? Isn't he only a 9th-rank sword saint? Isn't he just going to die? Qin Feng, who was with Zhou Yifeng, asked. He had been standing with Zhou Yifeng when Zhou Yifeng suddenly walked out of the group and headed towards Zhou Xian without any warning. Qin Feng called out to Zhou Yifeng from behind, but Zhou Yifeng didn't respond. Anxious, Qin Feng turned to look in the direction of Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. Zhou Yifeng. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but stand up from her seat and look at Zhou Yifeng, who had walked up to Zhou Xian. Zhou Yifeng seemed to sense her gaze from so far away, and he turned to look at Yun Ruoyan as well. Their gazes met across the long distance. Yun Ruoyan's gaze was complicated. Ever since Zhou Yifeng's confession and forced kiss, this was the first time she had seen him. Over the past few days, Yun Ruoyan would occasionally think of Zhou Yifeng and that night's events. Every time she thought about it, she found it strange, as if Zhou Yifeng wasn't the person she knew that night, but someone else entirely. What's Zhou Yifeng doing? Feng Yicheng was slightly angry. Given his cultivation, how could he possibly be a match for that warrior? Isn't he just throwing his life away? Liemo was also confused. Based on his understanding of Zhou Yifeng, he wasn't an impulsive person. I know a little about Zhou Yifeng, Count of Feng began. He's not the type to act recklessly. Let's observe the situation for now, and if he's no match for the warrior, we'll step in to save him. But if that happened, the match would be lost. As a result, everyone's gaze landed on Zhou Yifeng. So it's that brat. Thunderbolt Batian was also surprised to see Zhou Yifeng walk out. Since you're so eager to die, I'll grant your wish. That trap was left for Liemo. If Liemo can't use it, it'll be left for Yun Ruoyan, Thunderbolt reminded. Zhu Tian alone is more than enough to deal with this brat. Yes, father, I'll arrange for the trap to be removed right away. Thunderbolt Batian walked down from the tower. By then Zhou Yifeng and Zhu Tian had already prepared for battle. My name is Zhou Yifeng and I've come to challenge you, Zhou Yifeng said to Zhu Tian. Brat, you don't look like an expert. Zhu Tian noticed that Zhou Yifeng wasn't particularly burly and he wasn't very old. More importantly, he had never heard of Zhou Yifeng before. Is there no one else in the Feng family that they'd send a brat like you to your death? I'd advise you to leave obediently and let Liemo take up the challenge. Talk after you defeat me, Zhou Yifeng replied coldly. Yifeng said coldly. At the same time, he took out a long black whip and lashed it at Zhu Tian without saying a word. Oh brat, you're quite impatient. Zhu Tian laughed, then grabbed Zhou Yifeng's whip with his bare hands. Hehe, today I'll teach you that you'll pay the price in blood if you stand up for me. After Zhu Tian finished speaking, a large amount of spiritual power entered the black whip in his hand. Then he exerted force with both hands, wanting to fling Zhou Yifeng away. However, he suddenly discovered that the large amount of spiritual power that entered the black whip seemed to sink into a vast ocean. Just as Zhu Tian began to doubt himself, another similarly large amount of spiritual energy came from Zhou Yifeng's hand and passed through the whip towards Zhu Tian. Zhu Tian's spiritual energy seemed to have been absorbed by some mysterious force and couldn't be used at all. However, Zhou Yifeng's spiritual energy landed on Zhu Tian's body. The violent spiritual energy also carried a strange, cold aura. Without any resistance, it entered Zhu Tian's body. Zhu Tian's body was incomparably strong, but it still couldn't withstand the damage from this strange spiritual energy. The crowd watched as Zhu Tian continuously retreated. This temporary arena also had its limits. Just as Zhu Tian was about to retreat from the encirclement, Zhou Yifeng extended his other hand towards Zhu Tian. A thick vine sprouted from Zhou Yifeng's palm and rapidly grew, coiling around Zhu Tian's neck like a venomous snake. Just as the vine wrapped around Zhu Tian's neck, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone below the stage was stunned by this scene. They couldn't see how Zhu Tian was injured by Zhou Yifeng's cold and powerful spiritual energy. All they saw was that Zhu Tian and Zhou Yifeng had engaged in a contest of spiritual energy. Zhu Tian wasn't Zhou Yifeng's match and was beaten to the point of vomiting blood. You're lying. Zhu Tian pointed at Zhou Yifeng with his eyes wide open. The corner of Zhou Yifeng's mouth curled up into a cold smile. He coldly said, I'll teach you now. You'll pay the price of looking down on others with your snobbish eyes. When Zhou Yifeng finished speaking, he exerted force in his hand. Everyone heard a cracking sound as Zhu Tian's neck was snapped by the vine Zhou Yifeng had released. How is this possible? Above Flame City's city gate tower, Pai Batian couldn't believe what he was seeing. Zhou Yifeng's cultivation has actually reached the Great Perfection realm. Not only that, but he actually killed Zhu Tian, whose cultivation was at the peak of the Great Perfection realm. Pai Yan also frowned as he looked down. Although he had the same doubts as Pai Batian, he was seeing the truth with his own eyes. The enemy is actually unknowingly becoming stronger. Pai Yan seemed to be talking to himself. It seems that this battle really isn't as easy as I thought. Grand Elder, you still have to help our Pai clan. Chapter 428. We won, we won, we won. Zhu Yifeng won. He actually won. That's great. Let's show those arrogant fellows from the Li family just how powerful we Feng warriors are. The warriors of the Feng clan were very excited to see Zhu Yifeng win. Their gazes towards Zhu Yifeng changed from suspicion to worship. Zhu Yifeng was immediately surrounded by the warriors as soon as he stepped down from the arena. Good lad, your cultivation has actually improved to such a level. Qin Feng punched Zhu Yifeng's shoulder, but he could not suppress the smile in his voice. Ouch! Zhu Yifeng yelped in pain as he clutched at the spot where Qin Feng had hit him, a pained expression on his face. What happened to you? Qin Feng couldn't help but ask. He had used a bit of strength in a moment of excitement, but with Zhu Yifeng's current cultivation, it was no more than a tickle. How could he have cried out in pain? To tell you the truth, I've only just broken through to the Sword Saint realm a few days ago. Zhu Yifeng rubbed his shoulder as he continued. I was only lucky to win against that Li warrior. He underestimated me too much. Even so, I was still shaken up a little, so I really couldn't take Brother Qin's punch. Why didn't you say so earlier? I thought. Qin Feng was annoyed. I didn't injure you just now, did I? It's nothing serious. I'll just have to rest for a while, Zhu Yifeng replied. Just as Zhu Yifeng was about to return to the barracks, one of Feng Yicheng's personal guards called out to him. Zhu Yifeng, the city lord requests your presence. The guard stood in front of Zhu Yifeng and greeted him respectfully. Zhu Yifeng had defeated Zhu Tian, and the duel that the Li family had provoked ended with the Feng family's victory. When the crowd returned to the barracks, Zhu Yifeng was directly invited to the city lord's tent. Yun Ruian, Li Mo, Feng Yicheng and Count of the Wind were all in the tent. As soon as Zhu Yifeng entered, he saw Feng Yicheng sitting on the city lord's seat. He looked around curiously. Only Li Mo, Yun Ruian and Count of the Wind were seated on Feng Yicheng's left and right. Zhu Yifeng didn't see Feng Yenyang, nor did he see Feng Guan, who had returned with Yun Ruian. Young Master Feng, why are you sitting in the city lord's seat? Where is City Lord Feng? Zhu Yifeng asked in confusion. Zhu Yifeng, I called you here today. Other than to reward you for your contributions today, I also have something to tell you. Feng Yicheng didn't answer Feng Yicheng's question and instead spoke to him. What is it? Zhu Yifeng frowned and asked. Because he did not see Feng Yenyang, he stood in the middle of the tent and did not bow. Feng Yicheng told Feng Yicheng about Feng Yenyang's assassination and how Feng Mian was secretly escorted back to the city lord's mansion. This matter had always been kept a secret. Only a few people present and a few elite members of the secret warrior team knew about it. Now, including Zhu Yifeng, there were less than 10 people who knew about it. The city lord is dead? Zhu Yifeng's shock was understandable. Indeed. Feng Bo's expression was mournful as he looked at Feng Yicheng. Before he passed, the city lord passed on his position to Feng Yicheng. As a result, Feng Yicheng is now the head of the Feng family. Zhu Yifeng, are you willing to pledge your loyalty to him? Zhu Yifeng paused, then subconsciously turned to Yun Ruian. Yun Ruian wasn't looking at him. Instead, she was looking at a random spot in the tent as if she were completely at ease. When Zhu Yifeng looked away, he saw that Li Mo was also holding Yun Ruian's hand very casually. Although the two of them were in the middle of the main tent, it was as if there was no one else present. Zhu Yifeng finally shifted his gaze away, but there was still a sour feeling in his heart that pervaded. I'm not from Wind City and I'm not even from the Heiyuan continent, so there's no such thing as loyalty, Zhu Yifeng replied. Feng Bo and Feng Yicheng couldn't help but frown. Feng Yicheng was about to speak when Feng Yicheng continued, but I've settled down in Wind City right now, and I've also formed a great feud with the Thunder Clan. Before I leave this place, I'm willing to join forces with my brothers in Wind City to destroy the Thunderbolt family. Good. Feng Yicheng stood up from his seat, clearly quite satisfied with Zhu Yifeng's words. In that case, I have a mission for you to complete. Would you be willing? What mission? Zhu Yifeng asked. We want to attack Flame City at night. Feng Yicheng looked at Zhu Yifeng. The two families just had a duel today, and the Thunderbolt father and son surely won't expect us to attack at night. We'll try to take down Flame City in one go. The idea of attacking Flame City at night had come to them while they were watching Zhou Yifeng and Zhu Tian's duel. Feng Yicheng had made the suggestion, and it had been unanimously agreed upon. Zhou Yifeng, we all agree that it's best for you to lead the vanguard for a surprise attack. Count of Wind will first enter Flame City and open the city gates for you. Then all of you will coordinate from the inside and the outside. You'll definitely be able to catch the guards of Flame City off guard, Feng Yicheng said confidently as he swept his gaze across everyone. I'm the vanguard to begin with, so of course I won't refuse. Zhu Yifeng cupped his fists. Feng Yicheng and Feng Bo explained their next course of action to Zhu Yifeng in detail. Then the two of them left the tent. The Count of Feng directly snuck into Flame City, while Zhu Yifeng led over 100 warriors and hid near the outskirts of Flame City. Once the Count of Feng gave the signal to open the gates, they would rush in. After Zhu Yifeng and Feng Bo left, Feng Yicheng walked up to Yun Ruoyan and Liemo, brother Feng, sister-in-law. Feng Yicheng cupped his fists at the two of them. I'll leave Xiao Hong to you. Feng Yicheng's spies in Flame City had reported that Auntie Hong was currently in the city. After Zhu Yifeng's ambush succeeded, Feng Yicheng would have to lead the army into a full-scale assault, so he wouldn't be able to rescue her. He could only ask Yun Ruoyan and Liemo to enter Flame City and look for Auntie Hong. Auntie Hong and I are good friends, so I'll naturally do my best to save her, Yun Ruoyan replied. But she's a stubborn woman, and if she doesn't want to leave with me, she'll surely threaten to kill herself. My bewitching powder isn't effective against her, so I'm afraid. The Thunderbolt father and son duo didn't know of Feng Yicheng's relationship with Auntie Hong, nor did they know that Feng Yicheng was now the city lord of Flame City. In that case, why had this father and son duo brought Auntie Hong all the way here? But no matter what their plan was, as long as Yun Ruoyan knew of it, she wouldn't just stand by and watch. Even without Feng Yicheng's request, even if she didn't have the confidence to rescue Auntie Hong, Yun Ruoyan would still go see her one last time. This is for you. Feng Yicheng took out a bottle and handed it to Yun Ruoyan. This is a secret medicine that I had uncle refine for me. It's extremely potent, and it can be used against cultivators at the peak of the Sword Realm. Alright, with this, we'll have a much better chance of bringing Auntie Hong back. Yun Ruoyan accepted the bottle and left with Liam. I hope that you can stay here. I can save her by myself, Liemo suddenly said just as the two of them were about to leave the tent. Yun Ruoyan was no longer alone, and Liemo didn't want her to participate in such a dangerous mission. However, knowing Yun Ruoyan's personality, he didn't explicitly object. I'm really not that weak, Yun Ruoyan replied. Yun Ruoyan looked at Liemo. If you don't let me participate in something like this, I'll be anxious. Qingshan said that I have to be calm right now. My emotions can't fluctuate too much or it'll be bad for the child. Yun Ruoyan took Limeo's large hand and placed it gently on her abdomen. Limeo's gaze landed on Yun Ruoyan's abdomen, and his eyes immediately filled with gentleness, but he still tried to maintain a stern expression. You're not allowed to fly on your own, and you're not allowed to fight with anyone else. You have to follow behind me at all times, Liemo instructed. Alright, I'll do as you say. Yun Ruoyan smiled. Your Highness, can we set off now? Liemo sighed helplessly and dotingly before encircling Yun Ruoyan in his arms. Sword light appeared beneath their feet as they flew toward the southern part of Flame City. As soon as they entered the barracks, the two of them had carefully studied the layout of several important cities in the vicinity of Thunderbolt City, including Flame City. The city lord's manor was located in the southern part of the city, and the two of them landed near it. Due to the war between the two cities, there were many hidden sentries stationed on top of the city walls. These sentries were guarded day and night, and the moment they discovered someone flying on a sword, they would send out a signal or launch a sneak attack. Almost every guard on the city walls was equipped with a flying sword that could be used to deal with a swordsman. If so many swords were to be used at once, the force of the attack would be considerable. After the two of them landed, they avoided the patrolling warriors and arrived outside the walls of the city lord's mansion. Come up, Liemo called out to Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan lay on Limeo's back, and Limeo's hands created a suction force that allowed him to climb up the wall like a lizard. This scene reminded Yun Ruoyan of the time when she and Liemo had first met, when he had brought her to the Yuelu villa at night. At that time Yun Ruian had been quite dissatisfied with Li Mo. But now the two of them were husband and wife and they were about to have a child together. Yun Ruian couldn't help tightening her grip on Li Mo's shoulder. She whispered into his ear, "If we can find out who's behind the Thunderbolt family, we'll be able to return to the Qinyuan continent in peace. Once the Thunderbolt family is destroyed, the mastermind will surely show himself. At that time we'll have the Feng family's support on the Qinyuan continent, and Kongming Academy and the Li Kingdom's imperial family on the Qinyuan continent. With these three factions we might be able to put up a fight." You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.